Hi, I'm calling this meeting of the Arlington School Committee today on Thursday, June 8th, to order. I'm Kirstie Allison Ampe. I'm the vice chair. Our chairman, Mr. Jeff Thielman, isn't here. He'll be here later. He's stuck behind a train is what I hear. So we've already seen the beautiful art. Yep. So I'm going to start with public participation. Josh Smith.
Oops. Hi, my name is Josh, and I have two kids at Hardy in the fall, a rising third grader and a rising kindergartner. And I wanted to start by thanking you for your support of the addition at Hardy. I think it'll make a real difference there to add those 6 classrooms. And I'm also really glad to hear there's a plan to add some playground space on the Lake Street side of the yard in the summer of 2018. I had 2 other things I wanted to urge you to consider. One is an improvement, some sort of improvement to the yard on Lake Street in the summer of 2017. And the other is reconfiguring the outdoor space along the Chandler Street side of the school as well. For the first, I'm really concerned that with the demolition of the little kids' play structure to make room for the addition, that the kindergartners in particular will be really crunched for space this coming school year. And I know that mine at least really likes to get out and run around a little bit during the school day, and they can be wiggly little customers. So I hope something could be done this summer to do something to make that yard in the Lake Street side a bigger and better play space. Even something simple like putting down some wood chips or something over the muddier areas, I think would make a big difference and help a lot with the kindergartners in particular. For the second, I understand there's a town-wide effort to review parks and playgrounds comprehensively around Arlington, but I gather that will take a couple years just to get a study done, which makes sense. That sounds like a big project, and I'm concerned that the outdoor space at Hardy will need attention before that even the study can be completed. And I think it'd be great to take a high-level view of the Chandler Street side of the school and think about replacing some of the asphalt with additional play structures or other play space. Even during the addition, if that's feasible, or immediately after it, if that can't be done, so that that's ready to use along with the new classrooms, and there's more space for the kids when they come back in the fall. So those are 2 thoughts I had. Thanks again for your support and for considering parent input.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Kirstie, for starting the meeting. Rachel Krebs.
Good evening. I apologize if I do a little bit more reading. I feel like I'm not as off the cuff. My name is Rachel Krebs, and I have twins who are in kindergarten at Hardy and a 2.5-year-old who's looking forward to joining the fun. We moved to Arlington 8 years ago, in part because of the positive reputation that the school district had. And I continue to be impressed by the commitment that the district leadership and the school committee have in all aspects of educating our kids and engaging their minds and hearts and their bodies. I've really appreciated the frequent invitations for dialogue between the school committee and the public, and especially as the town is trying to navigate the challenges of school enrollment issues, we're very grateful as a family to feel like it's such a welcoming place and people's views are really important in being heard. So thank you for everything that you're doing for our kids. I'm here tonight because my growing concern for recreation opportunities at Hardy as well, and especially during recess. The Hardy School outdoor space is the smallest of all of the schools in the district, and there's a parity issue here. And if we can't sort of address the issues for our kids, then they aren't getting what they need. All of the other schools have a field in addition to the blacktop and structures, and we lack that extra room for running around and for our kids using their bodies. This space is going to be severely limited during the construction year and reduced even once the construction is complete. It is critical that the school committee and the design teams with whom they're working are taking the time to holistically evaluate all of the land around the school in order to make sure that it is used efficiently so that our kids can get the safe and appropriate play space to which they're entitled, just like the kids at the other 6 schools. As you certainly know, kids learn better when they've had a chance to get out and recreate and move their bodies and exercise. And I see this every day because the current kindergarten classes really suffered as a result of the reduced recreation time. The time outside has been halved in order to allow for kids from all of the classes to get out, and there's been a balance between outdoor and indoor recess time so that all 4 classes can be on the playground, because when all 4 were outside, the teachers did not feel like it was a safe place for them to be able to supervise all of the kids. And so they originally had made this split plan with the playground space and the Lake Street side, but as the weather changed and things were muddy, they couldn't use the Lake Street side, and so they supplemented by using indoor recess. And I've seen the consequences of this with my own daughter, who came home from school most days this year in tears, having used up every last shred of effort to behave herself during the course of the day, which we heard about from her teachers and how well behaved she was, but she couldn't keep it in the whole day. And it doesn't seem fair that a 6-year-old shouldn't be able to get out and move their bodies as much as they need to be able to move their minds. Indoor recess cannot be a substitute for outdoor recess, and especially when the weather is decent, it shouldn't be used as that substitute. So careful planning would allow Hardy children to be able to be provided with reasonable recreation opportunities and would allow us to stretch our budget to make it work. So I would just like to urge you to think about some of the things that Josh mentioned in terms of wood chips and recreating the Chandler Street side of the playground so that we can make the most of the time that our kids are at Hardy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Doris Pfaffinger? Pfaffinger. Thank you.
Hi, yes. I'm Doris Pfaffinger. I'm a parent of a current kindergartner, and I have a 4-year-old, so he'll be benefiting from the Hardy edition in 2018. Thank you so much for all your support, especially for the Hardy, much-needed Hardy edition, and then also for the dialogue you engage in with the community and parents like me and Josh and Rachel. I, of course, echo the concerns and suggestions both Josh and Rachel have voiced. What I wanted to share also with is like my daughter is sometimes a little bit shy, and she was literally overrun this year at the Lake Street playground many days that she came home and she just felt like she had nowhere to go. You know, she needs a little bit of a private space to retreat to. And one day she was so excited about having built a fairy house, and then little kids who were playing tag, rightly so, just waltzed through that fairy house, you know. And so I really hope that something can be done to the front, to the Lake Street side of the playground, because the kindergartners are wiggly little ones, and there's going to be sensory, like kids with sensory sensitivities, you know, kids who are a little bit wilder. So there needs to be something for both, or for all kids, you know. And then in terms of the main playground, I'm a little worried too that this is going to be much smaller next year. We, I think, have currently 450 kids at Hardy. In 4 to 5 years, if we wait that long, there's going to be, I think, projected as 50 more, and we're at capacity right now. There's no space for them, you know, to all play on these structures. And so, yes, I'm hoping that we can do something for the playgrounds earlier. Personally, my daughter also is asking for monkey bars, more monkey bars, because she says she's currently the worst in the kindergarten class, and she's hoping to get better. So, monkey bars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We usually don't respond during the public comment, public participation period, and we often answer during the 2 hours from now when the subcommittees report, but it's a school night, so I'm just going to ask the superintendent to give a 2-sentence response. Can you just, what's going on at the Hardy?
Yes, we did meet at the facilities meeting, and this is a concern of the district as well. I just want you to know that we're setting up a date, and I'm not sure which day next week it's going to be, with a playground consultant, and we're going to walk the entire Hardy exterior just to see what we can do for next year, and also then to begin the long-range planning for the playground that we'll install in 18 as well. And thinking about then, when it's under construction, what we can do on the other side of the building for outdoor play as well. So it's on our minds, and we're going to certainly want to hear from parents as we move through this process.
All right, thanks very much. All right, we've got to get back to our regularly scheduled program here. Jason Levy is here from the Arlington Education Association. Thanks very much. And our student rep, tell me your name again. Lucy, thank you, welcome. We also have at the table.
We have Liz Montes, who is our accountant in the business office, and you've met Tony Mertz, who has been our interim CFO for the day a week all year. So appreciate them both being here this evening.
And we're on to the
And we're on
monthly
to the
financial
monthly
report.
financial
It's a good
reports.
segue. Okay.
So you've had update, there was a little bit of confusion in Novus. There were two reports that were actually there, the April one and the May one. And we even have more updated information now. So both Tony and Liz are here this evening to answer any questions that you might have. Some have come via email, and then also an update on really where we're going to be ending the year. And perhaps that's where you might want to start, is just sort of an overview of where we are.
Sure. Based on the May reports, it appeared that our deficit, or it looks like our deficit would be on or about 478,000. I think as we continue to look at it, as we're starting to close down the year, we think we're gonna end on or about 300,000 that will be filled in with the votes that you guys had taken when we approved the budget in FY17 for some revolving funds and from special revenue funds, is how we're gonna go ahead and balance.
Can you talk in the mic?
You're talking to the mic.
Okay, sorry. So we will close the year, obviously not in a deficit. We'll do all of our transfers at the end of the year. All those voted transfers will be done at the end of the year when we're ready to close the books and be done with the fiscal 17 year.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just confused. So, so the almost 500,000, is it already accounting for the money that we've taken from the special ed account that was held by town meeting?
So that's already accounted for.
Okay.
They applied, special ed department applied and received the supplemental
Right.
appropriation for circuit breaker. That's already accounted for in here.
How much was that?
383.
Okay,
Let me
great.
see. The supplemental was 385,735. And then the reserve was about 335,000.
Okay,
The
the reserve
special
that
ed
we put
reserve.
in town meeting? was-
Yes, the
Okay, I
transfer,
didn't know it was
yeah.
that big, okay.
Mr. Hand?
Line, this is on the budget tracking form,
Yep.
line 81302, snow removal.
Yep.
We budgeted 40,000, and then it was reduced down to 15K. Can you tell me why? And
So this budget projection, or the revised one, was done prior to me. Not sure why. Maybe it was anticipated that we weren't going to have any snow this year.
okay, but it was reduced in November, even before the snow. I
Right.
mean, if that had stayed there, we would, okay, that was there. Then later down at line 82415, contractual snow removal.
Yep.
I thought the town takes care of the streets for us. As far as, I mean, what do we, it's beyond the custodial. I assume this is different than the custodial snow removal.
We hire a contractor to come in and do our parking lots.
The town doesn't do that?
I wouldn't say they never do it, but we actually have a contractor that we hire.
Because we're showing a $55,000 deficit in that, and I'm just concerned. If we're going forward in doing that, we need to plan on that. And my favorite line, 81413, on longevity. Do we have any idea where that money went? Where I'm coming from is that longevity is a black and white thing. We know exactly who's going to have longevity. That should be, the only thing we should have is a positive number if somebody quits in the middle of the year and we don't have to pay it. So I'm
So on the longevity, I believe it was under budgeted, so I don't believe it was taken into account anybody who was moving to a next level at the beginning of the year, and that's why that's in a deficit. I think that was determined back in the January, February
Well, okay.
timeframe.
Okay. I'll accept that for now. This is not, in my mind, this is not a number that, it should only be a
Correct.
positive result, not a negative. We should be budgeting for exactly who we are. We know who we have. We know what steps they're on. Longevity is a big chunk of our budget, and I'm concerned with this deeply.
I just want to remind the committee that Ms. Mertz did not construct this budget.
I understand that, and
Okay.
I've shared this with Ms. Mertz. This is nothing personal. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Schlickman?
Yeah, I just want to go over because there's a lot happening here, and I'm not quite sure where we're at.
Okay.
So we've got 385,735 coming in from extraordinary relief, right?
Yes.
Is that on this,
It is on the May 31st spreadsheet that you have. It's in
Oh, I'm
line
not-
tuition to other schools.
okay, I'm in my April 28th, yeah,
Yep.
okay, fine.
So if you look at 83,201, which is a line item for tuition to other schools, there's a line that says, or a column that says estimate to completion. There is a negative number there. That means we're going to be transferring 385 out of here into that supplemental special revenue fund or the circuit breaker account that we received this money for because it has to be spent by June 30th. So we're going to transfer those expenses that we applied for and received into that line item.
Okay, so that's in there, so now, how are we covering the 478?
How we're covering the 478, right now, we're projecting it to be just around 300, because now we're into June. If you remember on the funding summary that you guys voted on for the FY17 budget, we had some special revenue funds that would be providing a funding source, so we would be taking, once the dust settles and the books close, whatever that deficit is, whether it's 275, whether it's 250, whether it's 300, we're gonna use some of these line items that we projected to use anyways to cover that deficit. Those are done at the end of the year. We don't do those transfers until the end of the year, once we know what the final number is.
Okay, so at some point, as a reminder, because, you know, when you open up the report here,
Sure.
you're sitting here and say 478, ooh, I don't have that kind of money.
Right.
To have some sort of a memo or document in here is sort of a reminder that, well, okay, that number's there, but this is how it's being addressed, and
Absolutely.
we know where it is.
We will do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to follow up with that, what was in the budget was the 250,000, I believe, for curriculum materials.
Yep.
And that's already in here under line 85103.
So 250 is in there, and then the building rentals is also in there.
Right.
So on the building revolving, we projected 250, but I believe what was voted on was a different amount. I believe 350 was voted on. So again, I think we're just putting some numbers in here just to see where we're going to end the year. We also voted on the Visa account transferring some money, approximately 325 to cover some of these. So again, we're waiting for.
We didn't vote that.
These things, yeah.
but-
Oh, this is a funding source, so I'm not sure.
We-
I mean,
That's,
Going forward, that's one of the things we have,
Okay.
the student activities. Is
No,
that
no,
what
it's
this
not
is?
student- it's not
so
student.
that
So
was-
when-
Yeah, that was in Diane's plan, that was her
Okay.
plan, was to use that funding.
okay.
Now, whether we need a vote to do that or not is not clear, so it's okay, you know, for now, until we get a new CFO.
Sure.
To spend money from those revolving funds without coming to us. It's not best practice.
Sure.
But that was what her plan was to do.
Okay.
So, not correct to say that we voted on it, but that's the
Okay,
plan.
I'm not sure, yeah, how it's
Yes.
done here, so.
That's the plan. So your plan is to basically go back to what Diane had, which was to take additional money out of those revolving funds that was not planned to do at the start of the year.
So again, I'm not sure how the budget is voted on, but
Yeah.
when they approved the budget, what was projected and, you know, what made up everything, I think there was a pieces of both, of what the
Right.
town appropriation was, what the revolving funds would be to
Yeah.
get us to a total budget number.
Yes.
And so we're spending based on that total budget number, but we haven't done all the transfers, technically the revenue transfers to get us to that
Yeah.
total number that was voted on. So that's how we're gonna make up that, not make up a difference, but that's how it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
through this, since the original deficit was brought to the committee, we've talked about various ways that we were going to make up the deficit, and throughout all of those discussions has been probably needing to go to some revolving accounts as well as the stabilization account.
Yep.
So that hasn't changed. What through the, you know, the great work that they've been doing is really trying to close out POs in all areas, just to see where there might be additional revenue, which has been intense activity since the May even, just even today. So while we can't give you an exact number, the ballpark range is coming down as we actually go through all these things. But the intent was always that that's probably where we would need to go, as well as, you know, just potentially the additional money from stabilization.
Right. So, but my point is that, so we're, mean, the budget deficit really didn't go down. We had talked about earlier in the year that it had been reduced, but it actually, if you look at the numbers, it hasn't. So we're spending the extraordinary relief money, which we hadn't previously counted on. We're spending the full amount of the special education reserve, and we're also dipping into our other reserves, which is fine. I mean, we knew that was going to happen, but we had previously thought that the deficit had gone down, and it doesn't look like that's the case.
Another comment?
Yeah.
I think in a broad picture of this, what we're seeing is that we're able to cover the deficit which was identified back in September. But what it also speaks to is that the budget is very tight. So as we get into June and we'll close out POs, there is some monies for sure, but it is tight.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, you're correct in that it hasn't gone away. It's just that we've been able to manage how to address it. And that has somewhat shifted in terms of what the revenue source is to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, keep going.
Sorry, if I can continue. I did have a couple of specific line item questions. So, I mean, there is a little bit good news on longevity because the total amount is about 100,000, which was less than what Diane had been predicting. She had said 150. So that will actually roll over into next year budget because she had built in the 150 longevity into next year's budget. If the longevity amount is actually 100,000 short instead of 150 short, then there's some room in next year's budget. Should be. So that's good news. The other item that she hadn't previously talked to us about that is running way over is 82-103, power and electricity. This looks like another area where she reduced it from the budget. I mean, the budget has a bizarre number in it that doesn't track what we historically have spent in that line item. But do you have any sense of why that one is, other than that it was misbudgeted, why it's...
Well, I think it was misbudgeted, so if you look back the last 3 to 4 years,
Been
you
around
guys have been
eight,
spending approximately $900,000 a year. If you take into effect the 250 to 300 that was going to be offset against the building rentals,
Yeah.
I believe it was misbudgeted, but I also believe in the FY18, it was brought up to about 800,000. So
Yeah.
we should be okay for next year, maybe slightly lower, but for next year, I believe you guys should be okay.
Okay. And the other question that I had is in the other direction, 85-106 is the textbooks, books, and periodicals line item, which is running well below, 274,000 below the budgeted amount. And I've asked this previously as to why we have so much money in that line item if we're not spending it. Do you have any sense of that?
So again, based on prior years, last year, 160,000 was spent from that line item. The prior year, 201,000. What I believe this district, along with other districts, is happening is that more and more, we're moving away from the paper copy textbooks and probably going to more online, Chromebook, download, the pieces of material that are needed. I believe that's what's happening here along with other districts, so more and more getting away from the hard copy textbooks that are being given out or used to be given out to students.
Yeah, because we have a lot of items in our, in our unfunded budget requests that are curriculum materials. And I know there's two different line items. There's instructional materials and there's textbooks. And we are spending in instructional materials right on budget, but we're not spending in textbooks. So, but I would think those two could be fudged and you could spend more on the stuff that teachers are saying they need.
I would agree. I spent what I was told I had allocated.
Okay.
Believe me, there are definitely lists of things that, but much of what we spent last year actually came out of the one-time adjustment that we took last year.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's, if that's where it went to, the charges went to first, you know what I'm saying, to that one-time adjustment. I really can't speak to that. All I can know is that we had a budget and we kept to that.
Okay, so I mean, that's another line item worth taking a look at with the new CFO and figuring out what's in the budget, what we should be spending, whether it's over budgeted or not, so.
Actually, Liz and I have already started to do that.
Okay, great. And then, one last question. In the prior report, April 28th, it's not there anymore, there was a line item for contribution to stabilization fund for 135,000. What was that, and where did it go to?
So I'm not sure why that was on there, but we saw that there was an entry done through the city or the town's comptroller's office to remove that. I'm not sure,
Oh,
why
okay.
it was there to begin with. I don't have all the history on all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hayner had his hand up, Mr. Hayner, and then Dr. Seuss.
I can wait. I'll do second round.
Okay,
Oh,
then Dr. Seuss. and- well,
Okay,
you're
so
both in the
just,
second round.
well, yeah, I've already asked her. I just want to know a little bit more about the process of the revised budget that came out in November, because I don't think, we did not see all these details, is that right? These revised numbers? I know we did make another vote based on money that was available this summer that we didn't expect. But the changes we're just seeing this now. And so I'm wondering sort of how that process happened. And I know, we're going to have a new person here, but sort of how we can get better information throughout the year when it looks like there was a date for revision that, seems like would have been valuable to us to have had that information.
Well, I think that that is one of our goals with Mr. Denizio, is to perhaps even restructure the whole FY18 budget so it can be followed a little bit better. And certainly having some more periodic attention to what are changing will certainly be.
Because
a
I
big
understand
change.
that there are changes, it just would be nice to be
There
able
are
to follow
changes.
them.
It's
Yes.
always going to change, but, I don't disagree, and that's something that we've talked about in terms of making it a little bit clearer and calling attention to what some of the changes are. Yeah.
And then I just have one more thing, which is that I know it's been a great frustration for me on the school committee that I don't personally have a clear idea of what the revolving funds, what amount is in them, whether they're increasing, whether they're decreasing, and so just I'm hoping for in the future, and we know we have to have them because we have these kinds of expenses. We have elevators that break down. We absolutely, possibly have to have some money available for those kind of extraordinary expenses. But I just like to have a better sense of whether we're maintaining them, we're depleting them, we're increasing them. I mean, this could be presented in a graph or certainly numbers. I think that the school committee needs that, and I think the public needs that. I think that we can explain why they're there. I think.
Mr. Hayner. I'm sorry, Kirsty, you haven't spoken yet.
Go ahead.
Yeah, do get her.
So actually, most people have hit all the different questions, so I'm not going to repeat them. I'm just going to speak to Dr. Seuss's comment about the revised budget. So I can't put my head back in the space to remember exactly what happened then. We had a period when we didn't have access to a CFO, and then she was back for a short time, and then but what I can tell you is that starting in November 28/16, we have had that column in our thing. So this isn't the first
Okay.
time. It's
Okay.
been in all of our reports since that
Okay.
point.
All right.
So I think we just didn't pick up on it,
I might be,
but
yes, okay.
it has been there. And that's, I think it's difficult for Ms. Mertz to explain what was going on because.
Absolutely. No, I
they
understand this year is
have-
a
yeah.
funky year.
Yeah, this
Yes,
year
yeah,
is a
I understand that,
difficult year.
yes.
That's all.
Professional development that's happening during the summer, is that in the current budget or the next year's budget?
So it depends on when it's scheduled. If it's scheduled before July 1, it's in the current year's budget, and there's very small, very, 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 very small amount of that's happening, and the vast majority of it is after July 1.
I guess some of the things that show up here where there was no budget, example, student activity stipends, line 81205, no budget, no revised budget, and then we're in the hole for 127,000. There was a need for it somewhere along the line. I'm not asking you, I'm just bringing this forward in this new process that we're going forward. Whatever accounts we budget money for should stay in there unless we notify, so we're not wasting your time and our time asking, where did it go? And putting, and I'm going to use a phrase, this is not demeaning, I don't intend to demean anybody, but to establish a slush fund with the intent to move it around somewhere else. We lose.
Can't do that.
No,
Well-
that's not what's going on.
So I can at least explain some of these stipends. So these are stipends that I've done some history on. So we give out stipends for Spanish club, French club. I think in prior years, it was grouped in with the salary line item. For whatever reason, they decided to break it out this year, but we've always given out those stipends. I've looked back 2-3 years. I based it on a pay code, and they're club stipends that were given out. So it's not something new that happened this year. But again, I believe it was probably budgeted in the salary line item, and that's why that salary line item looks like it has excess money in it, because I think they just maybe didn't do the transfer. So they're recording the expense, but probably never did a budget transfer to show that there's now a budget in there.
Do they equal out?
100%, probably not, but the line item for like, the first one is 162, and we've spent 127, so you're still in the
Okay.
positive, right?
Thank you.
So I think that's what was happening, because I did track some of these stipends, I knew that would be an issue, and I see that that's what was happening.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Kirstie
Okay,
Allison.
I was just going to speak, historically, that has been what Ms. Johnson's practice was. She would start new line items, and the money would rest in the old category until like the next year. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that this is what we've been seeing, and this is what we were given. We may not want it going forward, but
Okay, Mr. Schlickman.
I mean, it's always been a challenge for us, is that line items sort of shift, oh, we're moving this over to this line item now. And there's been a bunch of those. And I want to thank Ms. Mertz for coming in as a consultant on Thursdays. If you picked Tuesdays, you would have missed us. So thank you for picking Thursdays so you can come visit, and Ms. Montes for coming here and enjoying a seat at the table tonight. I hope you're enjoying our presence.
Very much so.
And that you'll come back again sometime. You know, the thing is, with the new CFO, we can sit forth and look at practice. I'm a numbers guy. I should be able to have a little better handle of what's going on, and there's just so much stuff moving around that sometimes it's hard to keep track. So that I think one of the goals of the committee next year should be to work with our new CFO to come up with something that he agrees with us on, that we can just sort of monitor this and be clear, as well as making sure that when we're transferring across what we define as line items, that we're making a transfer, and that there's just some sort of adequate notice when things are happening within a line item, so that, you know, when I looked at the budget document, you know, the financial report for the first time, I'm looking at that bottom line number around 500,000 and thinking, oh, well, and we're getting extraordinary relief coming in, that'll cut most of it down, and then realizing that it's, the extraordinary relief is populated somewhere else, and we're still with a $470-something thousand deficit on the document, and I just was not in a position where I could explain it based on what I was looking at visually. And you're coming into somebody else's document. It is an impossible task, so that when we can all sit together and define what kind of documents we're getting next year from a new CFO who's experienced in this, I think that we'll find some happiness.
I think you will too.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it there because we're after time. So thanks very much for coming. And one comment I do want to make is that we have come a long way in terms of information given to the school committee, and if you were here 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it looked a lot different. So I think we've come a long way. At the same time, we still have ways to go. I would really suggest that when the new CFO has been here for, a couple hours, or whatever, but he's been here for a while, when he's had a chance to settle in, this summer, I think the budget subcommittee should sit down with him before we get to the school year and say, this is what we want.
Yeah.
There's a budget transfer authority, DBJ, I think it is, or whatever it is. And I think you should share it with him and say, does this make sense to you? He may have a suggestion for how to make it better. So I think the next step is, you heard a lot of good things, Liz, because you're going to be working for him, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. And then you can take that back, and then the subcommittee can meet and talk it through. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you,
for coming.
everybody.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll see you.
Yep.
All right, next is Ms. Stugalecki.
Lucky.
There we go, the director of the athletic program that had a great season. Thanks for all your good work.
Thank you.
And there's still, is anybody still playing?
We do. We have some individuals still competing.
Right.
Ryan Oosting is a standout sophomore. He just won the state championship in both the 1 mile and 2 mile race.
Awesome.
On Saturday. It was actually incredible. He competed the 2 mile and 40 minutes later competed in the 1 mile against athletes who hadn't run yet and still won by about 30 seconds. So he's on to New England's this weekend and then nationals the following weekend. And Mia Wallace is a senior captain of our tennis team, and she is competing in the individual state championship. So she's representing the North for Division II and will compete against the South on June 17th. So we're still going.
Great.
Very exciting, yeah. Thank you.
All right, welcome. So,
Well, thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share with you our past year in review. I will be mindful of your time. I know you have a lengthy agenda to get through, but I think it's important that, you know, the student athletes recognize that there are so many different stakeholders and that ultimately the decisions start here for the experiences that they can enjoy, and then also letting you see, you know, how we're managing our department and that you're putting your trust in hopefully what you feel is a good place. So, do I need to click anything or? All
I want
right.
to turn the lights on.
So this is our participation this past year, and we've seen an overall increase in participation over the past 4 years. This year was about the same as last year. We think that we had a spike in the first couple of years. Now we're kind of at capacity with what we can absorb, and we're looking to find ways of maybe hitting some different, you know, populations of students we haven't reached yet, or really building our non-cut program so that we can field more students and offer them the opportunity to participate. On the left is our fall and winter participation by male and female athletes, and on the right are the blue represents the male programs, the red the girls, and the yellow are programs that are offered for both. So you can see it's completely even between the boys and the girls and just shy of a third for each. So that's where we currently are. And our overall participation, I jotted down, we had about 1,100 student athletes participating over the course of this year.
is that 1,100 individual
Oops.
students, or is that, you're counting people twice if they paid?
It does count people twice, and we're trying to figure out how to break down into like a thinner scope of how many different athletes participate. We're using a new registration tool, which is helping us generate these reports. Now, we did recognize our 12 season athletes this year, which means they were a 3-sport athlete for 4 years, and we had 7. Which tells us that there are a lot of multiple athletes, but maybe not 3 season for a long period of time. So it's something we're looking to dive deeper into as well. So these were some of the newer initiatives and developments this past year. We started our school store with the goal of increasing pride and unity, and we collaborated with the Special Education REACH program and the High School Economics program, studying supply and demand, managing inventory and counting, and then the student leaders helped it as well. So that was something they were very proud of, and it was nice to do. In the fitness room, we reaped the benefits of over $30,000 worth of improvements coming from donations and volunteer time. So there were community members who came and volunteered time to improve it. Local businesses donated supplies, other schools and gyms as well. We started a parent vision team, and that's a group that I meet with for, I think, 4 or 5 times this past year. And it's a volunteer group where I'm able to connect with the parents and identify their priorities of their different programs that they're involved in, talk about their concerns, and really foster different conversations about our vision and what we're trying to accomplish. We partnered with the McKellie Center, which is through Boston Children's Hospital. So we had a team physician for the first time through Boston Children's Hospital this year. And they came and did some educational initiatives as well. We really sought to increase our social media and digital communications. We have weekly emails that go out now. Our Twitter is at, I think, over 1,200 followers. And the students helped start an Instagram. And those have all just been really great ways of connecting with the community. Coaches Advisory has grown. I actually just had a meeting with them earlier this evening. That's a group of coaches similar to the Parent Vision Team that comes and identifies priorities. They discuss best practices. They problem solve. How do you manage, different situations? And that's been a great addition. For the first time this year, we were chosen by the MIAA to have student ambassadors. And what that means is that we have 3 student athletes who are chosen to represent the state of Massachusetts on ultimately what is the leadership team for Massachusetts. So they are on an elite and relatively small group. We are looking at 2 sophomores and a junior, so they will continue next year as 2 juniors and a senior, and continue to work with different leaders throughout the state of Massachusetts on school culture and leading positively in sportsmanship. We increased our number of interns, so we offered internships through athletics administration, sports medicine, and sports marketing. And in our facilities, the track was redone, our concession stand and our press box were both renovated as well. So in our leadership development, we had the student ambassadors, we went to regular leadership workshops, and here pictured are 5 student athletes, and they were actually the first student presenters at what was the 42nd Annual Athletic Directors Conference. So it's been running for 42 years, and they were the first group to ever present as students. And they presented to a group of about 50 athletic directors about Captain's Council and school leadership. Additionally, we took a group down to Providence College, and we joined their Student Athlete Advisory Council meeting. And one thing that was really great about that experience was having the college student leaders talk about social media in particular. Students there who maybe lost scholarships because of the use of it, and really just educating our students on how to use that platform responsibly. We've really focused on cultivating sportsmanship, unity, and pride, various team collaborations, pep rally. We were the recipient of an Educational Athletics Award in Sportsmanship from the MIAA. Featured in the middle, you can see our faculty participating in a faculty volleyball game. We worked with the Madrigals and the band. They came to different events, which was very exciting. And then here you can just see our student crowds, which have grown. On the left there it's really neat. That was on the cover of the New England Hockey Journal. And it talks about Arlington, and it says public power. So that was exciting for us. We participate in a number of community service initiatives. Pictured here, we have a Dig Pink game raising money for breast cancer research. In the center is our gymnastics team helping sell Christmas trees at the Boys and Girls Club. And then on the right, we have student leaders down at the fire station and the police department for Operation Hat Trick, which raises money and awareness for wounded warriors. In addition, our students contributed to groups such as Council of Aging, Coaches versus Cancer, Project Purple, youth clinics. They raised money for Boston Children's Hospital, the Catherine Malatesta Fund through Dana-Farber, and a Catherine Wall Scholarship. And another primary focus of ours is community engagement. We really believe that the privileges that we have in our athletic experiences is a result of this community, and it's also an opportunity to bring different groups of our community together. And so we really seek ways to do that. We host an annual athletics night where we bring together Arlington Youth Health and Safety Coalition, ACMI, different groups from Arlington, as well as our parents, coaches, and athletes. We hosted a youth sports expo, incoming freshman athletics night, Operation Hat Trick, as I referenced, our social media and weekly emails. And here on the left are captains with Providence College Athletic Director Bob Driscoll, who came to speak here about leadership. And on the right are community members, actually the president of the Touchdown Club, as well as a community member, and they're doing the ribbon cutting ceremony for our new fitness room as they spearheaded that endeavor. There's a lot of growth in progress. We don't like to just focus on, though Ryan and Mia's, as I mentioned, their accomplishments are amazing. We really like to celebrate the smaller growths because those eventually lead to the bigger celebrations. So we had a couple teams that went from winless to one was 500, one just under. We had a team that made state tournament play for the first time in 8 and one that made it for the first time in 10 years. And we had multiple both personal and school records broken. And that's our lacrosse and wrestling teams there. And then we had a number of competitive achievements. We had 4 all-scholastic athletes. That's chosen by the Boston Herald and the Boston Globe for students in the state who represent solid academic and athlete. They excel both athletically and academically. We had 6 Middlesex League MVPs, Boston Globe Coach of the Year, 2 Middlesex League championship teams, 5 individual sectional champions, a sectional championship for a soccer team, a state championship for both an individual and a team, and a nationally ranked individual in our programs. And those are some pictures of those achievements. You can see actually Ryan and Mia are in the middle here. And the athletes were very grateful because of the programs afforded. They had some very exciting opportunities. We were at Fenway twice, the Boston TD Garden twice. They went to the State House. They met Governor Baker. Went to Songus, and they were chosen for Mike Lynch's Channel 5 High Five segment. And then looking ahead, the remaining events I let you know about already with Ryan and Mia. I will be sure to update Dr. Bodie and send those along as well. Next year, we're looking to increase our educational initiatives. We've identified nutrition as a primary, it's a priority of ours, really educating our student athletes on appropriate nutrition and hydration, along with mental health awareness and mindfulness. Those go hand in hand. So we'll be running some educational opportunities next year for that, as well as injury prevention and recovery, and collegiate opportunities, helping families understand the NCAA clearinghouse process and what's required in terms of your academic schedule to be able to play at the collegiate level. We want to increase our community outreach. We want to widen our participant reach and enrollment, really look at how we can encourage more participation for students who maybe don't realize that they can be involved. Increase our leadership development. Our swimming program right now, we transitioned into the league 2 years ago, which was a great move. Currently, we run both boys and girls in the fall, and we might be exploring a co-op with Watertown, which would allow us to have a fall girls team and a winter boys team, which aligns with when the state competitions swim. So it would really help those programs have a better competitive opportunities. And then, as always, we're looking at how we can best utilize our resources efficiently. As you know, space is limited, and so balancing our fields and schedules and juggling things around and really partnering with our CFO and Dr. Bodie and Dr. Janger and the different stakeholders to see how we can be the most resourceful with what we have and continually improve the programming that we offer.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Questions? Dr.
Yes.
Seuss?
Just a question about, do you have an idea, sort of just approximation of what percentage of our students are athletes or are in the athletic program?
Sure. Well, we'll have about typically 400 register for the fall, so just shy of a third. And then winter and spring are a little bit less just because of fewer programs offered, but still around 350. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm very heartened to see that the numbers for men and women, or girls and boys, are very similar.
Yes.
That's great news. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Carden?
So 2 questions. First, there was some issues with the athletic budget, I believe, and additional funding was provided to you. Are you currently have a sufficient amount, or where are we with as far as that goes?
I think probably similar to what you're experiencing on a whole is we're really sitting down as a team to evaluate, what costs have risen. There are most of our budget are fixed costs. Most of it's facilities, transportations, salaries, and stipends. That comprises a majority of it. So that's fixed. Those have risen. Another thing is as you have more participation and more success, your costs increase. The longer your seasons are, the higher your costs are. So we're still really evaluating that as a team and getting an assessment on that. And I'm really looking forward to doing that with our new CFO this summer.
Great, thanks. The second question is whether you could comment on the impact of moving the high school start time back by half an hour, which would end the day a half hour later.
Sure. Yeah, this is something we discuss league-wide, actually. All of the athletic directors, this comes up frequently at our league AD meetings. And Arlington, I believe, would be less impacted than many of the other schools in terms of our start and end time already. Many other schools end earlier than we do at this time, so their start time would be pushed back later. At this time, I don't see it having a significant impact. From my understanding, our end time wouldn't adjust tremendously. Am I accurate in that?
It would be about a half hour. I will, can I make another
Sure,
comment on
please.
that? One of the things that the league superintendents have committed to each other and the districts is that not all the leagues have lights, and so we would, during an interim period, make sure that we covered games at our different facilities if that was necessary. The problem is, as we get into the late fall, it can get dark. And so that's I think, been really the only big issue around this.
It's certainly, I mean, it's a league-wide issue, and there's always a domino effect, right? So if we push things back and then we're going later, what other groups have to go later? It's going to have to give, somewhere, unless there are more fields available or, like Dr. Bodie said, lights. So there certainly would be an impact if that were to progress.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for all the support.
Appreciate all your hard work this year and all the success.
Thank you.
Excuse me, would you like to mention about the new scoreboard?
Oh, yes, I would. Thank you. We were very fortunate to have Mr. Toomey spearhead an initiative to get a scoreboard on our Pierce softball field, which we have not had yet. If you've ever tried watching a softball game there and you don't know what inning, outs, or the score is, it can make for a longer, confusing game. And thanks to Leader Bank as well, who provided the funding for that. So you can see it out on the Pierce softball field, and we're very appreciative for the
So
community support.
if we were behind, did we like throw a 7th or 8th inning in there just to keep going or try to win?
Yeah, no one would know.
No one knows.
Yeah. One more inning.
Without the
Yes.
super-
So and we won the inaugural game with it, so we think it's good luck.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have Dr. Chesson to give us the technology report or update.
All right, fine. Hold on one second. I was just asking a question.
Oh,
We're going to
sorry.
go to that. That's okay.
All right.
Thank you. So once again, this is a very exciting thing in the district. That's it, yeah. Oh, just play, or hit show or sorry, slideshow from the beginning. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about an update to the technology plan. The formal technology plan document is being completed, but this is the information that will be included in there. So first, to talk about the overall technology strategy, where we're going, and this has been developed with pretty heavy teacher input and some parent input as well. At the elementary level, we'll be doing K through 2, we'll be doing iPads. At grade 3, the vast majority of schools have chosen to go Chromebooks, with the exception of Stratton and Thompson, which will be doing iPads with keyboards. In grades 4 and 5, all schools are doing Chromebooks. Thompson is going to also continue their iPad 1-to-1, but we are purchasing 4 Chromebook carts and for Thompson as well. And that is because we will be using a universal screener for English language arts and math at grades 4 and 5 that only runs on the Chromebooks. So they will have exposure to both devices. At the middle school, we'll be transitioning with the opening of Gibbs, the 6th grade, from 1-to-1 iPads to 1-to-1 Chromebooks. We'll be redeploying those iPads, as we'll be redeploying about 250 iPad 2s from Stratton to kindergartens at 3 schools. We'll be utilizing BYOD and school devices to try to get closer to 1-to-1 for grades 7 and 8. We'll be increasing our computer science offerings, and Mr. Coleman talked about that earlier when he gave the update on the math and the computer science curriculum. We'll be continuing to expand our use of Google Classroom. We'll also be running a boot camp for parents and students who are entering into either a one-to-one for the first time in grade 6 or BYOD for the first time, or any parent that their child is doing BYOD in the summertime, so that parents can come up to speed with how a student can use the device to help their educational progress. At the high school, we'll continue to utilize BYOD and school devices to get closer to one-to-one. We're increasing our STEM offerings, and we've hired a full-time makerspace teacher who will be working with other teachers to really kind of flesh out that program. You heard again when Mr. Coleman was here about how we're going to be expanding our computer science offerings, and we're going to continue to expand the use of Google Classroom. This just gives you a little bit of an idea about how the money is going to be spent. We have about $425,000, give or take a little bit, from capital that's committed to us again this year, and approximately $300K that comes from the construction budgets for Thompson and Stratton in order to make purchases. These purchases are in line with the strategies that you've seen before. Because Stratton is a one-to-one school, they'll also be getting new ceiling-mounted projectors and sound system in all their schools. The new classrooms that are opening up in Thompson will be done in just like the classrooms that are already there. And this talks about the licenses for iReady, which will be our universal screener that we'll be implementing. We piloted that this year in Bishop and in Pierce, and we'll be expanding it to all the schools for the fall. Middle school, again, is getting some additional devices because of Capital Committee. We have additional devices for teachers at the middle school, and we'll also be using the iReady Universal Screener for the math support classes. One thing I should mention is that the teachers at the elementary school that are scheduled for a refresh of their device, with the exception of Stratton because they have a construction budget, and Thompson, the couple of new classrooms that are there, those are the only exceptions to this. Teachers will now be getting a Chromebook, a brand new Chromebook that has a touch screen and a camera that's front facing and an iPad. And instead of getting a MacBook, the choice of that provides all the functionality. We've tested everything from easy IEP to printing to, every aspect of what students are, what teachers need to do to support students. But they will retain their MacBook until it dies. We will not be replacing hard drives. We will not be replacing cards. If there's a cracked screen, it won't be replaced. This allows for a couple of things. It allows teachers to make the transition between the old devices and the new devices with less anxiousness. It also allows our tech department to make sure that they get all the bugs out of the printing that's going to be, because right now kids and teachers cannot print with Chromebooks, they cannot print with iPads. Coming in the fall, teachers will not only be able to print with iPads and Chromebooks, but they actually will be able to print with their phones too. So any mobile device will be able to use what we call follow you printing, which means that if I'm in any building in the district, I can print to the computer, to a printer in that district by I send it to print to follow you, and then I take my card if I had it around my neck, you'd see it. There we go, like that one. And I put it on the card reader on the printer, and then I say release all, and it releases all my jobs. So especially this is very important for coaches, for literacy specialists, for curriculum directors, for principals, for teachers when they do PD together with teachers in other buildings, they're able to print there. The high school will get some additional Chromebook carts, and there will be a replacement. Because the high school is so big, we have to replace their teacher devices in a rolling fashion. So 40 of the teacher devices at the high school will be replaced this year, and then we'll be providing some assisted technology devices upgraded for 50 students. So technology support. As usual, as we do every year, we'll be running our Summer Tech University. Our summer curriculum work also involves incorporating technology. The first day that the teachers are back at the elementary level, they will actually be trained on the iReady Universal Screener, and we have the company that makes that screener coming in several times during the fall and spring to work with teachers in interpreting the data. We have some additional staffing at Audison. We have a teacher who's currently part-time instructional technology support, part-time teaching computer science or digital modeling. She's going to be moving to full-time instructional technology support. And we'll be adding a .2 teacher for an 8th grade computer science elective. This says increase internet capacity to 250 meg pipes. That's actually incorrect. I talked to the technical staff today, and we're going to actually have 2 gig pipes starting in the fall. The interesting part about that is that right now we're paying $3,200 for what we have a month, and we're going to be paying $3,600. So we're doubling our capacity and only going up by $400 a month. And that was through a competitive bid process. So as we look, when you see the final document for the technology plan, it only goes up to FY19, and I'll explain why in a second. In FY19, we have the remaining funding committed in the neighborhood of $400K, and we'll have some Gibbs construction budget. It's my recommendation to the person who takes over this position that we replace the outdated projectors at 5 of the elementaries and Audison at least, and possibly the high school as long as they're not installed in the ceilings. Right now we're in the 3rd year of paying a lease payment of $90,000 for iPads that were on a lease. That will be concluded at the end of this year, and that $90,000 I'm recommending be used to replace projectors. We have a number of projectors across the district that are actually VGA and not HDMI compatible, so we need to move to and they also are projectors that the bulb costs almost as much as the projector, so we need to move to a cheaper design. We'll be continuing to replace the teacher devices at the Audison and at the high school. We'll be purchasing one-to-one Chromebooks for Gibbs and outfitting Gibbs classrooms with the state-of-the-art projector and sound systems. And hopefully we'll be creating digital modeling classes at Gibbs. So that's all the good news. Concerns for the future. The level of instructional technology support is below the level that's needed in order to really make the use of technology support transformational. We have and also next year we just were made aware of this today, that not only will English language arts and math be expected to be tested in a digital format next year for MCAS, but science at grades 5 and 8 is moving to digital for next year. So every grade, save grade 3 through 8, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, would be testing online, and the team made the decision today that if we're going to do that, we might as well just do grade 3 and do grades 3 through 8 all online. So we have a stopgap measure. It's a lot of work, prep work to do. So we have a stopgap measure that we're looking into where we sort of stipend a teacher at each building of the elementary schools in grades 3, 4, or 5 to sort of be the lead teacher for MCAS and online testing, and also technology in that building, so that the instructional technology staff can really take the heavy hitters. So those lead teachers would be sort of like tier 1, and the instructional technology staff would be tier 2 and tier 3. There's no committed funding from the capital committee after FY19. At the time that they committed to us, they gave us a 5-year commitment of $400,000 plus or minus 20,000, not minus, plus 20,000 per year, and that the last year of that 5-year commitment is FY19. The computer science labs at the high school, the digital art and the digital media labs, music labs at the high school will need to be updated in FY19, and there's not sufficient funding for that at this point. We have, for example, at Stratton, we have 10 carts of iPad 2s, about 250 iPads. That I said before, we're going to be moving to kindergartens across the district, but they will not be able to run the most current version of the OS, the operating system for iPads, as of September 2017. We'll be able to keep using them, but we won't be able to put new versions of apps on them, and if something goes wrong, Apple's going to pretty much wash their hands of it. And the level of technical support for full district online MCAS is below what would be ideal, and I talked about how we're going to we have a plan to get through next year, but we'll have to look at that over time. So that's the update.
Question, Mr. Hayner.
Grade 3, you said some of the schools, they have the choice of either Chromebooks or iPads.
Yes.
They have similar software?
Most of the apps run on both of them, yes.
Okay, I'm just looking for consistency in the programming and stuff. So is there any issue with that?
I don't feel that there's any problem, and I want teachers to have us get what they will most likely use. And so if teachers at third grade feel really strongly that they want iPads, I think that we should continue to do that. The cost differential has completely dropped.
Right.
That used to be one of our biggest concerns, and Apple came out with a new iPad that's $294, and the Chromebooks that we're looking at right now are about $300, so
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
If I may, just one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
The iPad 2s, you said won't run the new operating system.
Correct.
They won't, they're not, they can't run it at all?
They cannot run it at all.
So, okay, thank you.
Dr. Garcia.
About the Chromebooks, a couple questions. First, are the ones that we're getting, like for the Gibbs for kids, are they going to have the touchscreen?
Yes.
Okay.
And they also have what's called a forward-facing camera, so that
Okay.
means that you can see what you're taking a picture of. Right now, you can't. On the older ones, you cannot.
Okay. So when we went to having the iPads in the 6th grade, we rolled it out, first for a cluster and then so we did a pilot. Have we done any kind of comparable pilot with the Chromebooks?
Yeah, we've been using them at 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
So we haven't been using them at 6th grade. Actually, 6th grade took the MCAS on Chromebooks this year.
Okay.
And they had no problem moving from one device to the other.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one quick question and then another question, more complicated question. So are we then doing all the testing on Chromebooks? Is that where?
That's it.
Okay.
With the exception of Thompson.
Okay.
Thompson and Stratton, where we didn't test 3rd grade online this year. We only did 4th grade. So Stratton, if those students have one-to-one iPads with keyboards, which is what we're ordering for them, so that's actually slightly
they're
more
more
expensive
comfortable with the
because it's
iPads.
$294 plus $100 for the keyboard. So that means that every student that is used to using a keyboard, and even at Thompson, we bring in keyboards for them. So there's no student that's taking the MCAS without a keyboard unless they want to. I mean, there are plenty of students that unplug them and say, I don't need it, and would prefer not to use it, but that's available to them.
Great. And then the other question, I have 2 kids. One is in 7th grade and one is in 10th grade, and both diligently brought their devices for the first few weeks, and then their teachers were never using them, and they said, why am I carrying this extra weight around? And so, and I know 6th grade is very comfortable with it, but 7th and 8th weren't ready. Do teachers, I know you've talked to teachers, do they feel more comfortable now with the bring your own device sort of
I'm going to look at
approach?
Mr. Levy, and I don't want to put words in their mouth. What would you say?
I feel teachers are becoming more comfortable. It just takes time. I remember when we first had access to an iPad card, the first year that I had it, I didn't use it as much because it took more time for training, and it just took time to get used to because it is changing not just teaching style, but a lot of lesson plans and everything. So over time, and then if it's not one-to-one but bring your own device, teachers became more comfortable with students, or becoming more comfortable with students completing assignments with different methods, whether it's on computer, whether it's with paper.
Yeah, so I would, that's my take too, but I didn't want to put words into his mouth. I also think that by increasing the amount of instructional technology support at the middle school and by running a boot camp before school starts for students, so that students can know, how can I use this to better organize myself, and parents can know, how can students use this to better organize themselves, and this will be...
Teachers have to be okay with it. They have to allow it in the classroom.
Right,
Yeah.
I've had that conversation with the administrative team, so I think we're all set there.
Yeah, okay, cool, thanks.
So just a comment for your successor and for Dr. Bodie. I do think, though, at the high school particularly, but also at the middle school, that we need a plan to go to one-to-one, BYOD and one-to-one, because there was a huge difference going from sixth grade, where it was one-to-one, and iPads were used every day, not in every class every day, but they were used by our students every day, to these carts that might get used, once every couple of weeks. It's just, and then so those carts aren't really even being used very much. So I know we need them for the testing, but we've got to find a way to get to one-to-one. And there are other policies, where you have to buy the computer for high school for the $300 for 4 years. I think is very reasonable. People are going to be willing to do that. But we need to come up with a plan, go to capital committee for the iPads for the Chromebooks that we need for people that can't afford them, and get there somehow.
So I would agree with you that teachers are more inclined to use them if every student has one. Then they don't have to worry about, I'm using them today, I'm not. They can, at the spur of the moment, say, oh, okay, take out your device and do X, Y, or Z. I totally agree with that. I just want to say that I'm not quite sure that those carts, I'm absolutely sure that those carts are not sitting there and not being used, because there's been a slight problem with the network in the grade 8 section of the building, and I've been getting enough telephone calls and email to know that people are waiting to use them and they need us to resolve this network issue that they're working on right now. So when the network is down, is when we hear a lot, and we hear a lot of complaints, and teachers are having to change lesson plans, et cetera. So I would say that the utilization is probably higher than we would be afraid that it wouldn't be, and it's not as much as we would like. And I think that that's really attributable to whether it's one-to-one or not. And I think you're totally right about that. And,
I would add that there's been a lot of pressure for the high school administration to use their budget to buy more. And in fact, we simply don't have the money to buy all the Chromebooks that they would like to have at the high school.
Sorry, I was just to Len's point, I think parents would be willing, if they can afford it, and not everyone can, of course, to buy the devices and make them available to their kids if they really genuinely felt that they were being used consistently and it wasn't just an extra, weight to carry around. So I think that is messaging that we can tell the community, and I think people, if they knew that that was an expectation, that if you can afford it, that this is something we need you to do, I think they would.
I had a couple follow-up questions. So do you think that part of the problem of teachers not using as much is the problem that you talked about, the lack of instructional technical support?
I think that's part of it. I also think that, as we talked about, if they don't have one-to-one, then it doesn't become part of their day. And I think that really rapidly became part of the sixth grade day. And so every classroom where we've put one-to-one, Thompson, those teachers were not any more technologically astute than any other school in the district, but they had them in there. They could go to them anytime, and elementary teachers tend to roll a little bit.
And
Well,
then,
Can I add a comment to that? One thing that was very instructive to me is when we had that meeting with sixth grade teachers and deciding what they were going to have, they made a very interesting point, that they would prefer to have exactly the same devices as the students, so that they would know, when they do design the lesson, basically what the student experience would be. So to your question about BYOD, I have wondered since then whether that may actually be a little bit of an impediment when you have different kinds of devices that come in, and you're doing a lesson on a MacBook, or you're doing it can perhaps get in the way of a sort of a consistent approach to it. I think it's something we need to figure out a little bit more in the high school about this. And then there's that transition point where's the inflection point from when it really makes sense to when it doesn't? And I think there's more transitioning to use of technology is growing very quickly. I think it's growing faster than we even expected, but are we at that point where,
Makes sense
people
to
would
bring
feel
it.
it was worth the investment?
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
the other question I had was, if I understood you right, you said there was going to be a parent boot camp for tech?
For parents and
So
their students
that-
together.
That sounds really nice, and it
does.
might be nice, I mean, let people know ahead of time,
Yep.
and also solicit questions from them for things to cover. For example, what do you do if your student says, I can't find my work anywhere? And, the different places you can look and stuff like that, because
Sure.
it took, I would have to go to my older daughter to help my younger daughter. And not everyone is equipped with the
Right.
older person, so.
We'll have to come up with some
Older
FAQs.
teenager.
Yeah, but ask people what problems they've had.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is something you're going to plan for when?
Joanna Bradley, who is the instructional technology specialist for Audison, is going to be running it right before school starts. We find that that's generally where we get people more likely to come, when it's like, a week before school starts and reality hits that school's going to start and people have to know what they're going to do with their device and stuff. So.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the district goals. So this is our second reading. This has been reviewed and discussed by the Curriculum Instruction Assessment and Accountability Committee, CIAA. Why don't I just, so why don't we start with goal, why don't we go through goal by goal? And I'll take any comments or questions about goal 1 from anybody. Anything, anybody?
Just a second.
I'm sorry, I don't know if we can put it on the screen for people to see. So we're, just for the public, we're looking at goal 1, student achievement. So the Arlington Public Schools, the school committee, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, adopted 4 district goals. They're there, so it's great. So student achievement, goal 1, and then every year underneath those goals, we get more specific. So those are overarching goals, and then we get more specific. The committee works with the superintendent to specify each goal and then to define pieces of evidence or evidence of success that we need to monitor throughout the course of the school year. So I just want to, are there any questions on goal 1? Going once, going twice. Dr.
So are the
Carden?
dates new? Is that what's changed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Goal 2. So goal 2, staff excellence, professional development. Any questions on those goals? And there were lots of dates added to this one in particular. And so the dates we agreed Paul chairs the committee, so I shouldn't overstep here, but we agreed that, we would use this to remind the chair to put items on the agenda so we check on things. Any questions on goal 2? Goal 3, any questions? Everybody okay? And then yes, sir, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm back on goal 2.
Yep, sure, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Question, I just wanted to point out that I'm pleased that there is a plan for including cultural competency, professional learning
No.
in the different, for the teachers and for the administrators.
Thank you for highlighting that, thank you. Goal 3, any questions or comments? And then goal 4. Okay, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
goal 4, I have
Yep.
questions. For 4.1,
Yeah,
it talks about having dates of meetings and focus group sessions for stakeholders, including parents, faculty, and community. Can we get a report on what was heard, what feedback people gave at these sessions? I mean, how is it's being collected somehow, and just if we could see what comes out.
Different notes.
so just a new bullet that says reports of these meetings, or something like that? Is that what you're proposing?
And
Summaries?
not so much reports, it's just notes.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
Dates and
report might,
notes.
yeah, notes, just, I'd like to know what people are saying, what are their concerns?
Just put it on the agenda and as part of your superintendent's report, right after.
He meant on
Oh,
this, how
I'm
is it
sorry.
listed on this?
No, so we can just say, and then summaries of these, written, or.
Yeah, yeah, summary would be good.
Summaries of these meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, there's just, so we would add summaries of these meetings.
To 4.1.
Yeah, 4.1, so it'd be a second bullet, I guess. Yeah, so summaries, summaries of these meetings to be reported to the school committee as they occur.
Yeah. And then for 4.2, it doesn't say when.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
This evening.
We will talk about it tonight.
Well, okay, so I would say, okay, yeah, we're going to talk about it, yeah, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm just confused with the last sentence, that the goals will be revised from time to time.
Well,
Because these are sort
that's in
of
the
yearly.
policy.
What?
It's in the policy.
I see. Okay, because it's a yearly goal, and, you know, obviously we revise it the next year, but
No, we
we're not going
just-
to be revising it week to week, month to month. I
We'll put
mean,
that in the
it's-
policy, just to,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, just to comment on that, I mean, I do think this year there were some goals that were, were mistimed, and we didn't change them or update
That's
them.
true.
So I think as the superintendent realizes that some dates might be wrong, or some things might slip to next year, we should readdress these as necessary.
I agree, but that sentence refers to the overarching goals.
Oh,
It
okay.
I see.
refers to the 4 overarching goals, and it basically was in there as sort of, at the end of the meeting when we did this several years ago, it was like, well,
We can change these,
We'll
okay.
revisit these, we can change these. It was sort of a way to
Yeah.
get out of the meeting.
So, I have to say, I mean, we don't want to necessarily.
End the meeting.
It is possible we won't meet all these goals, but I think revising them midstream would just be weird, I think.
Yeah,
we
so
just-
that doesn't, that it
Got it,
applies to
okay.
the overarching thing.
Got it,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Applies to the overarching thing.
Yes,
Yep,
okay.
that's what it applies to,
Good,
yeah.
thanks.
All right, so we have the change, so you want a date on the improvement? I'm not sure it's going to be necessary for that last one, but you want a date?
Okay. I'm just saying it didn't have a date.
Yeah. So why don't we say improvements to the district dashboard from baseline of 2016-17 by, we're going to have it
Oh,
by
want to say
9
September?
by 9/30/17.
Yeah.
Karen. All right. So we've got the goals, we got a few amendments, which Karen has captured. I think everyone understands them. Can I have any more discussion? Can I have a motion to approve the
So
district goals?
moved.
By Mr. Schlickman, second by Dr. Seuss. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So it's unanimous vote, the goals have been approved. Okay, so now we move from the district goals to Dr. Bodie's goals, and just so everyone's clear, the superintendent's goals are, these goals will be, monitored throughout the course of the year, and it's prescribed by policy and by state regulations from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And these goals will be formally reviewed at a meeting by the school committee in the fall of 2018. So we're setting FY18 goals that'll be kind of reviewed more than a year from now, a year and 4 months from now. Right? That's the timeline.
Yeah.
That's the timeline. Now, Bill and I, we all have different opinions
No,
of the timeline, but that's it.
I got it. I got
Okay.
it. I'm slow.
So that's the
Thank you.
timeline. So, there's, let's see, so we've got the practice goal,
Right.
Dr. Bodie's practice goal. We have, which is, talks about supervision of principals. Then the student achievement goal. And we talked about making the district improvement goal being the student, what did we say?
Well, it's, as to which one?
Yeah.
For the district ones?
Yeah.
We were talking about the buildings.
Yeah, the buildings, okay. Okay. And then, okay, so we have to have a district improvement goal here, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Practice goal, student achievement goal, yeah, Bill.
Under the practice goal, under the benchmarks, just clarify, the first one, I thought we agreed on a date on that first one. Did you provide us with a calendar at like either the end of September or the beginning of October this year? Just the calendar part. It says here, calendar will show schedule and time of each visit, just the dates.
But the calendar could change over the course of the year.
I thought, I guess my question is, I wasn't pushing for it, I thought that we had agreed that was the only one in all these goals that you were gonna provide us a calendar. In fact, my memory was that you offered it, maybe you didn't,
I will, once the year is through.
at the beginning.
At the
So,
But I'm just saying it's going to change. It always does change. What you might get,
you set a calendar, if it changes, you just let us know that it's changed, that's all. like any of the dates. All the dates that we had under the district goals, I personally will not hold you responsible if you miss a specific date on it, by a couple of days, something happens and stuff like that. We have to be flexible on that. Maybe I misheard. I thought we had agreed on it, you providing us a calendar, that's all.
I will, but after the fact,
Okay.
so you can see what,
When it happened.
when it
And-
happened.
I just want to share my recollection, and I will stand corrected by the other two members of the subcommittee. School visit log, provide general notes and stuff. We talked about it, and I understand we've had differences on the idea of specificity, but prior to it, in the above part, you talked about the standards that you feel these fit. And my sharing with you was that the determination of clarity there, we've all seemed to be off on different interpretations of, and this right here gives us an opportunity to be on the same page. With the clarity that Dr. Bodie provides for us on this, we can determine proficiency, needs improvement, or exemplary. That's my understanding of this. I'm just sharing that with the rest of the
That's
committee.
right.
Right.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Same practice goal. So the school visit log, will you show us that, or?
Yes, they're going to have to be general, because if you're talking, right. But
That's
it'd be
that's what I was just
the
addressing.
nature of the conversations.
Okay.
Honestly, the nature of the conversations is always about students, personnel, the building, technology. There's pretty much the same things that we talk about every time, maybe in one meeting, not the other. So, I mean, I can give you very general notes about those meetings.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify on that,
She's still talking.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was just going to clarify on that.
Okay, go ahead.
So, just, I guess I sort of have the same question as Bill, is when will we get the finished thing for these? So.
For the evidence for when you do
For the
evaluation.
practice that,
Mhm.
yeah, that, right.
Well, okay, so we get a mid-year report in March.
Get a mid-year, we can do a mid-year, I
So
can do a
some of
mid-year.
them will be mid-year, and then the rest will be right
Yeah.
before the.
And that's what the policy is, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just asking because that's,
So that's right,
so
so,
we know when to look for it.
yeah,
Okay.
If I may.
yeah.
If you go further down in this document, the standards are listed, and Dr. Bodie, up at the beginning, mentioned 1B and 1D. And that gives you a guideline on the ratings of those. That's what I wasn't maybe as clear before. But I think that puts us all on a similar page when we get to there.
The thing that is sort of true about these rubrics for the standards is that different actions of a superintendent are covered by multiple and parts of different kinds of rubrics. And in fact, when I was going through them, you can see how many can be affected by any one of these particular goals. So it's really also the holistic part of it, and that's up to your judgment. And then one of the things that Mr. Thilman and I looked at is, because there are particular standards, and as you can see what the standards are, what would be, in addition to this evidence, what additional evidence would you want to look at for proficiency? And that was also in Novus.
Yeah, so, that's right. So we have, are there any, we're talking about the practice goal now, so yeah,
Yes.
yes.
I don't understand how it can be a goal when it's a requirement. It's like saying my goal, for me, is that I have to show up every day and teach math. It's my goal, every day. I'm going to teach math. No, that's what is required of her. It is required of her to make at least 3 unannounced visits. How can that be a goal? It's a requirement. I don't see how this can be a goal. A goal is
Well, it's
supposed to be something separate. Like, I don't know, there's going to be something about those visits that is different than what is required, or.
Actually, when we do goals, I'm not sure how to approach it in Lexington, but oftentimes people's goals are really related to the rubrics. They are.
I've never had a goal that was something that I was just
I'm sure they're
expected
related
to
in
do.
some respects, but I mean, I can't comment because I don't know. But I can say that within the district, people look at, there are certain areas that you want to work on in terms of your practice. And this is an area, I've done this before, but it's nice to have it as a focus because this particular year, be perfectly honest, I'm sure in some schools I was there more than that, but I think that I was not as focused on doing it as much as I could because of all the other things that were on my plate this year. But I think it's really important. And in fact, I think it's very important. And this is sort of a minimum of what I would want to do. But I think by having it highlighted as a practice goal, it's important. It's important to me.
Yes, it's important, which is why it's required.
Yeah. Well, then you
I
can
don't
say-
understand how
you can say all
it's
these-
like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like a goal is something different, something you're gonna change, or, I don't know. I feel like this is required. Every year you have to do this by law. That's what it says. So I don't know how it can be a goal. That's all. I'm just having a hard time with the goal being something that, it's like saying I'm not gonna take more than the amount of vacation I'm given. That's my goal. I don't understand.
Okay. Does anyone want to respond to that? Anyone want to?
I feel like
Yeah.
a goal should be something that's different than a requirement for the job.
So it could be, okay, so just it could be that I'm going to improve the performance of, so the goal could be, I'm going to improve principal performance, and the means by which I'm going to do that is visits and follow-up. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
It's hard to measure that, that's the thing.
right.
It's hard to measure
Yeah.
that, right?
Go-
I mean, the real challenge here is that we don't get to follow around the superintendent
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis. When
So
I was a principal, I'd be walking into classrooms every day, seeing what's going on. I'm sure the superintendent walks into buildings at random times and knows what's going on and has regular conversations with principals that are not connected to this particular goal. I agree with Ms. Starks in the sense that it's one of the basic requirements of the job, but I mean, you're in sort of an interesting area of how are we going to evaluate her performance in the job, considering that this is one of the base requirements of the job, something that we wouldn't see on a regular basis unless she reported it out, and through the process of reporting it out, where it's not really a goal on one thing, it's, I'm trying to see this more as a framework for documenting and structuring our evaluation of something that she's required to do on a regular basis. Now, how do we get that to a point where we can put quality onto that and sort of get a sense of the quality of the conversations he's having with principals? I don't think it's someplace we can really get to very easily. I think that the relationship between the superintendent and leadership of the district is a critical component, and the way she sets goals, evaluates, and supports leaders is a vital part of the job. We don't have access to any of that. We can't read through that. We can't see that. So we're sort of dancing around the perimeter, trying to hone in on, an essential element of the job.
I mean, so I would say, I take your point. I think you make the right point. Cindy makes the right point. I think the goal is to improve principal performance, but the school committee really can't get any data to document whether or not that happened, other than, test scores and stuff like that. We can't get, and that's, sometimes you're helping a principal improve her practice, or his practice, you don't see the results in terms of scores for a few years. But basically, I see this as a principal improvement goal, and I don't know how we get any data other than you met with people and there were focused meetings that were focused on school improvement and your improvement of your, your practice.
We could ask them.
Yeah, we could, yeah, I don't know.
Could make them do an anonymous survey and say, you
Yeah,
know,
we-
did these
tried that.
meetings
We
with.
tried that.
We tried that.
Yeah,
And
we
it
did,
can,
yeah.
we only got, we had less than 40%.
But it's actually, I'm not, you know, the person whose judgment of whether they improved is hers, is Kathy's. You know, they get
Right.
better as a principal, yeah. And we're not really privy to know. I mean, we-
Which makes it not a good goal then.
I know, but.
Right? If we can't measure it and we can't, I mean, it's a great goal to have, but it's not one that we can put on paper if we can't measure it. So, and while this is measurable, like I said, it's a requirement of the job, so it just seems silly to.
All right, good, but Dom's,
I want
why don't you?
I just want to share this. I spoke to MASC several times, and they said, and I'm talking hypothetically, if we as a committee had specific issues with our superintendent in an area, we can ask for detailed information, right down to evaluations and stuff, that it can be redacted for privacy reasons. This is from MASC and from council on that. But that would require us as a group to make a determination, and again, I'm talking hypothetically to do that there are an issue or several issues that we need to be specific as and ask for specific things. You all know me. I'm the last one that wants general information and stuff, and I constantly look for specifics and stuff like that. We have to be together to identify the things that we're looking for. I agree with you on this, but that's why the log piece that I'm asking, that Dr. Bodie's offered, and brought that forward on her own. To me, the more specific of each one and what is going on, and can be redacted as far as identifying individuals if there's concerns and stuff. I had a concern, talking general, not that particular building, will make the determination of where on the latitude I'm going to be for ranking that goal. And I commend her for doing that and putting the standards down there. And we came to an understanding that I'm seeing it the same way. And I'm hoping we all can look at it that way to give some cohesion with us instead of being all over the place. I'm rambling here, but until we have something, or there's an issue, and I'm not suggesting there is, but MASC is very clear that we can ask for specific documentation and specific examples of things that can be redacted to maintain privacy. But that, again.
If there's an issue, I'm not saying there's an issue.
Well, no, I understand that. When I say an issue, I'm not saying a negative issue. If we're looking for a growth, say, our superintendent only had a master's degree, we would be asking for educational courses and stuff like that, and we would ask to see following programs and stuff. It can be a growth.
All right, let's, Dr. Bodie, want to respond then, Kirsty? Yeah.
No,
You're set?
well, anyway, go ahead.
Okay. I have two questions. What is a practice goal? I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. What's meant by the phrase?
A practice goal, from my point of view, and I think it's sort of generally heard, is something that you're going to do to improve your job responsibilities.
Your own practice.
My own
Okay,
practice.
Okay, that's, I just wanted to be sure I was right.
Yes.
So what I'm wondering, and I've been listening to everyone, and I kind of feel like everybody's got good points. But what I'm wondering if what's missing in here, or what might help bring it to a level that Cindy feels better about, is if there was some discussion of the introspection and the thinking that you do in between the principal meetings about, you know, what can I do to help bring this principal to the next level, or any reading, or you know, what are you doing to make the next visit go even better?
Well,
And I'm not sure what to ask for, but those are,
I could, well, first of all, may I?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the practice goal is sort of a tough one, just because of the nature of this role. I mean, some of the things that I might do in terms of practice would be invisible to you. And maybe how I run a meeting or professional development. You're not going to be attending. I could give you the PowerPoint or something like that. But it's a lot of the work that I do is a requirement of the job. It's just the way it is. And some of the information is not something that really could be or should be public. It's just an awkward,
people have actually talked about this among superintendents, that it's sort of an awkward goal, because if you pick something that's sort of trivial, it's not, why? I mean, could be something that could be it could be something that would be measurable, but what all of the rubrics are in teacher evaluation are things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be doing lesson plans. Well, people can have practice goals about their lesson plans. It is a requirement of the job, but it is something that you maybe need to hone better. And I feel as though, given all that has been going on, this was an area that I did not do as much with this year as I would have liked to. And it's a way for me to keep it more front and center. And in the past, I've done much, much more in terms of school visits than I did this year. And it's something that I think that's very important, and something I want to focus on more next year. So I'm being very open about that. That's a real high priority for me going into next year, and I'm putting it forward in terms of this goal. If you want me to find another practice goal, which is much more trivial, much more perhaps measurable in terms of counting things, I can certainly look at that.
I wasn't suggesting that. What I was saying was, it sounds like your practice goal is to have more meaningful, not just have the 3 visits, but have more meaningful visits and more meaningful conversations with the principals.
I would not characterize my conversations during my superintendency as not being meaningful. It's more of a practice of making sure that they're on the calendar, getting done, and I'm not coming, looking at the end of the year saying, I wish I had done more of that, and just getting swallowed up by other kinds of meetings that have been occurring. Not to mention not having a CFO most of this year. So it's something that it's like a reset, and let's make sure this all gets on the calendar and not get pushed off by a building meeting or something else that would go on.
So I see, so I think this is a good practice goal because it's the superintendent's interaction with the principals. I think we can get, and we just have to I have to remember to do this, but we have to remind each other that the most important thing really is the specificity, without mentioning names, of the notes in the log of visits, because the ultimate outcome here, if you read is in order to effectively supervise and support principals, yes, but as well as support high expectations for teaching and learning and consistency and common focus on instruction. So the ultimate outcome of these visits is improved instruction, which is, not something that can be measured in, 1 year in any school. So what I'm going to be looking for in the log of visits is notes on, some thoughtful conversation about how instruction is going to improve in the school. Because I think that's what you're talking about here. So, without naming, without saying, the Hardy School needs to improve, and whatever. That's how, so I'm looking for some specificity in the reporting, and I think that will get at whether or not steps are being taken in the superintendent's coaching of principals to improve instruction in the classroom. Because I think that's what this is about. That's how I see it. All right. I think, I think we've talked that one, I think we've talked about that one enough. We can separate these, Cindy, and you can vote, if we want. Student achievement goal is the next one. I want that open for me. So the student achievement goal is overseeing the development of a plan for the Gibbs for curriculum, operations, scheduling, and culture to be completed by June of 2018, which would mean we would get an interim report in March. Yeah, any questions on that? Dr. Allison Happy.
So I'm bringing it up here because this is kind of the first time that I remember that we've had to talk about this topic. I'm not sure they all fit into the goal thing, but when you talk about the curriculum changing, are you really talking about the entire school experience, like things like bells or length of periods and all of that stuff? Because I'm hearing parents who are telling me, well, I like what my child's learning in 6th grade right now. I don't see why it needs to change. But it's really the entire experience of school, not just
It's the entire experience of school. In fact, today, we just had a meeting with 6th grade teachers on the planning committee, looking at those 3 major areas. And one is curriculum, but it's not so much for saying we're not going to have the math curriculum standards. Clearly, we have to have that, or ELA standards, or science standards. But there can be different ways in which, you teach standards, too. And it can come through project-based, it can be more interdisciplinary. And so those are the kinds of experiences we're looking at. But in terms of what is required for 6th grade students to have, we certainly we have to maintain that. But then there's the whole issue, how long should a block be? What are we going to, how are we going to schedule some of our exploratory courses? Right now, at the middle school, we have them on a quarter basis. Does that really work in the 6th grade model that we're trying to develop? So actually, they've made progress, but the more progress you make, you realize how comprehensive this whole approach is going to be. And I'm sure as we go through this, we will try to be as thoughtful as we can. We want a different experience for our 6th grade students, but at the same time maintaining the curriculum and the high expectations we have right now, plus all of the supports that they have.
And then the other thing was just how is feedback being sought from parents from this? Because it talks about that the work of the planning committee will be shared with parents and community, but then later it talks about that feedback from these sessions will be communicated to the planning committee, but it doesn't actually say feedback's going to be solicited. So it's just a little confusing.
When the grant was written to have the stipends for this committee, written into the grant was the requirement for 2 sessions where parents would be able to give feedback to the plan. And then there's also the requirement of the 5th grade orientation. So there'll be an opportunity then to talk about what the experience will be. My expectation is there's probably going to be more than that. In fact, this coming Tuesday, Vision 2020 is sponsoring an evening for discussion around this in a share out. And we also need to have the Gibbs Advisory Group also meet. I'm hoping some of them will come that night, too.
So this Tuesday one isn't one of the 2 that's...
No, it's not one of the 2. Okay. No, the 2 will be scheduled next year.
Okay.
Probably something late fall, something more March.
Okay. Could I just ask that we add the words after 2, it's under key actions, first paragraph, in 2 evening informational sessions, and also soliciting feedback, and then the rest in the 5th grade orientation.
Wait.
It doesn't, right now, if anyone else reads it, you don't know that it's not just information to the parents.
So there's got to be language
Back
that,
and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there needs, actually,
language
I
about
was,
soliciting feedback from parents, yeah.
I'm not sure.
actually, my feedback on this is that there needs to be an 8th action. And the 8th action is that you will solicit feedback. Because we have to, and that
We
has
have
to
to,
be one
yeah.
of the actions that we do.
So you want a separate action?
I would like a separate action item that feedback will be solicited from the community and parents.
Okay, actions in 2017, 2018, Karen, we're looking at
Yeah.
number 8. Right?
And there will
If
be
you add that, I
some
don't care
kind of
about
a
anything.
plan presented as to
Right.
how and when that
Oh,
is
yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. So, okay, say that again, Cindy.
That somehow we will solicit parents and the community for input, and there will be a plan for how and when we are going to do that by a date.
By When's a realistic
I
date?
want to know when and how often.
Well,
As
there's
parents.
going to be, there's two. Actually, there's going to be 2 informational feedback nights, and there's also going to be the 5th grade orientation evening. That probably, the 5th grade orientation will probably be less about feedback back, as it will be, talking with parents about where, what the plan is. But there is going to be 2 scheduled. I don't have the dates when they're going to be yet.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But
and
we want a date for the dates. We just want a
So
date for the
by-
plan.
By 9:30, what's realistic for the
Oh,
dates?
so we want to know when they're scheduled for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's realistic at 9:30? I'm gonna know.
I think that we've had a lot of questions and a
think
lot
so.
of.
Yeah, okay,
I
so.
think, I think so.
By
Sure.
9:30, by 9:30, by September 30th, 2017, the superintendent shall announce the dates for the meetings, for the meetings. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're looking at it a little bit too narrowly, focusing on just the 2 evening
Yeah.
sessions.
Exactly.
There needs to be just a plan for getting parental input or community input at important points. It may not align with when we have this meeting schedule. There may be.
It might not, that's.
There may be like 2, maybe they're considering 2 different schedules where there's an early release day or not an early release day, and you want to get feedback from the community on that. That should happen. So,
Right.
I mean, I think
Wanna
there needs to be.
limit ourselves.
Yeah, not just those 2 information sessions.
Yep.
So,
So you're asking for a general statement, number 8, which is, how do you want to word it?
There should be a plan to get community feedback when necessary.
Okay, that's enough? Everyone satisfied with that sentence? So that's a sentence, Karen. All right, good.
Well,
No, you're not satisfied?
it seems pretty vague to me. What,
Well, I have a
what you're,
suggestion.
what you're trying to, let me see if I understand. It's not, I don't think we're on different, it's just more language. The plan is to reach out to parents for feedback. And there's going to be some things that it would be appropriate for feedback, and there's going to be some things that are not. And there's gonna- and actually, in some ways, the stuff that parents can't really give feedback on, in terms of what an interdisciplinary lesson would be, or how we're going to, what kind of project is going to be in social studies. Those aren't really areas, but to the extent that there are areas that we can have parent feedback from, we want it, and both, we want to make sure that parents are aware of what kinds of ideas that are being considered. I think that I'll have a better idea after the summer. Today was the share out of the 4 hours. Frankly, I'm not sure we have enough time for all the work that's already been laid out today. But we'll see how we go after we have 2 full days of work over the summer as to what additional work we need to schedule.
You want to finish your thought, Len, and then let Jennifer.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I'm just asking for that there be a plan to make a plan.
So I
To make
think,
a plan.
Yeah.
I think by September 30th, we want
Right.
a plan to make a plan. So
Yes.
Well, what the plan for
just as a-
communication is.
And just as a follow-up, I mean, we have parents on school councils. I think this idea that there's some things that parents really shouldn't be involved in is a little bit limiting. Certainly I understand that, you don't want every decision about, how long a block should be going to parents. But I think as you're going along, you should have a presentation. It doesn't have to be a meeting. It could be a PowerPoint sent out to parents saying, this is our ideas of our planning committee about how they want to run the day.
Exactly.
Do you have any feedback?
That's exactly what the idea is to give an update as to where we are. So for example, this coming Tuesday, in this forum that's being sponsored by Vision 2020, I think that when you begin something like this, you really should have a mission and a vision statement. And a draft has been developed and going to be put out there and say, do you have any ideas?
Great.
What else, are we missed something here? And that's the kind, that would be very helpful, because there's a lot to be thought about with this project, and having people aware of it is important. So as we think about, I actually a very simple thing came like, how long should the lunch recess block be? Well, should be 40 minutes like we have at the elementary, or maybe that's not enough, you know, and so those are the kinds of things, and then how do you fit everything else in? There is a lot that is facing us. I think parents, we all want to redefine the sixth grade experience, and we want to make it a very meaningful and in an environment that's very welcoming and positive for students. And what that looks like against the constraints of a school day, the constraints of standards and achievement that we want our students to aspire to, there's a lot of challenges there, for sure. And that's what we're working on.
So I have a suggestion. So we have this Gibbs Advisory Committee, and they can be the mechanism to work with the administration to sort of figure out the plan, right? So they are really that perfect. I like big public meetings. They're very useful at times, but they're not the only way to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, you don't want to have too many of them because then everyone gets exhausted. So whether that's a monthly quick newsletter that they can help. I mean, these are parents who are willing and able to sort of help with this process.
Yes.
And they can be the liaison between other parents, and they can filter some of that, so you're not having to filter that raw, everyone has an idea type of thing, can help filter that information about the reaction to various plans or suggestions or so forth. They can really serve that purpose, and I think they're eager to do that.
They are eager, and that's what the hope is that they will do, because when people were selected, originally we were going to have just a smaller group like we've had building committees, but we now have a representative from each school that's supposed to go back to the school councils,
right,
and to the PTOs, and so to be a liaison on that. And that can happen as well, but I also think that it's important that we reach out to all parents who would like to be part of the process.
Sure, no, but they can help sort of with the plan of how that communication. And I'm just saying that they can be part of that in the next few months. Here's the kind of communication that we want to see, to all the parents, to our PTOs, to school councils, to whoever, to principals, whatever.
And there's also Vision 2020 that wants to be part of this process
Sure,
too, in terms of representing maybe a broader community too of the town. So clearly there's a strong interest in participating in this, and the challenge is to figure out, actually one of the challenges is to figure out what are the, besides reporting out the work we're doing, but what are the areas that make sense to get feedback in, where we're trying to decide between different things.
All right, so I think we got by September 30th, there'll be a plan, there's going to be consultation with the Gibbs Advisory Committee. I think we could, a plan for parental communication and participation and involvement.
Mm-hmm.
So not just, okay. So I think we got that. Anything else? All right, that's that one. Now, we didn't list out here the district improvement goal, but what the subcommittee talked about was the district improvement goal is, correct me if I'm wrong, but is finishing all the building projects, or being on target with all the building projects on time and under budget.
Everyone.
Everyone, and that's
Yeah.
it, and just get it done, and then if you don't,
If it doesn't, it's her fault.
100 push-ups. So that's kind of what that's about the extent of the committee's discussion, if I recall correctly.
So goal 3.
No, it's not goal 3, it's the district improvement goal. So you have a practice.
But it's goal.
It's basically goal 3. Yes,
that's
yes.
district
Yes,
improvement
it's,
goals.
yes, thank you, Kirsty, yeah. It's basically goal 3 is the district improvement goal.
Okay.
So I just want to make, that should, the minutes should reflect that, and we should remember that. And then the last thing in Novus is the evidence for professional standards for the superintendent evaluation. So there's, if everyone remembers, there's 4 standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family community engagement, professional culture. So we're following the, DESI guidelines, and then Dr. Bodie selected 3 pieces of evidence, which is consistent with what teachers do. I think they picked 3 pieces of evidence, and so Dr. Bodie picked these 3, and I thought what we do is, if anyone has any comments, suggestions, changes they want to make, this is the time to do it. No.
Overall, under each one, wherever it reflects, uses the word report, logs, or schedules, a date or a window of dates In other words, in the month of October, or when it calls for a report, you suggest that you're going to do a report. Approximation, when do you think that report would be presented to us? Or if you have a log or something, when you think the logs would be done or things of that nature? In other words, when would they be available for us to look at or whatever on, in the Dropbox or whatever? Right now, my issue is that to get all this stuff in one big clump in September, I find it very difficult to evaluate. And I also don't think it does you justice, because if I have questions about it, or clarity, or I owe it to you to let you know my concerns or whatever as we're going along, as the things are done, not 3 or 4 months after the fact. That's all I'm asking you to. And this isn't something, I'm willing to vote for this tonight as is, but I'd like you to plug these things in as soon as possible.
Well, there is a midpoint, there's a formative time, and that's basically how we do it in the district. There's the midway point when you can take a look at the evidence, with progress on evidence around the standards, around goals. I mean, some of these things, for example, the first one, instructional, you're going to get an MCAS report, an MCAS report in October. You're going to get a report early on. I mean, it's, and that's actually a policy, too.
Right, but also for the old man, standard one, da-da-da, put a little label on it when you get that report to us. That's all I'm asking you. But I know you're going to give it to us again in that big summary at the very end. But as you do these things, just identifying the test score and things of that nature, this is meeting the standard on instructional leadership. That's all. And the schedule of parent forums, we just talked to that. You talked about things of that nature. I don't find it manageable. And I also feel I owe you my response as soon as something is done, not in September. I don't think it's fair to you.
Yep, go ahead.
I don't understand. Under Standard 4, professional culture, it says school committee members' review of all communication, written and oral, by the superintendent, including newsletters, memo, the budget presentation. I am not doing that.
Well, we read it in the newsletters.
I don't understand why I have to do something that's that's weird.
Oh, I see. Well, we read their newsletter, right?
So-
School committees, I have to review all the communication, written and oral,
It's
by the
evidence.
superintendent. I don't understand this.
You can choose to do it or not. I mean, these are just lots of things. You get memos I send out to the parents. I always send them to you. I have newsletters. These are just, and talk about having them be on a schedule. They're not all given, all the newsletters aren't given to you a year at the end. These are just ongoing things. It's just reminding you that this is the kind of evidence that would be used according to the rubric for professional culture.
So
You could
maybe.
just say school committee out, you know.
You don't, we can change the language on it.
So maybe delete the word all.
Well,
I do not.
You could just
yeah.
say school committee out because it's just, the communication is presented, right? What we do with it is.
School members
our-
review
that's it, exactly.
Yeah.
communication.
Exactly.
But to
Due diligence, we
go
should
back
read
on
it.
what I just said, I saw the newsletter that came out the other day, and I had an issue with it because it was dated April. I was told they were a month behind, but it also recommended to the reader to go to an event in May. It didn't come out until June. So I'm not trying to be able, that's a criticism that I think is poignant at this time to give you. That's all I'm saying,
Well, I think it should, first of
as an
all,
example.
I think it is, right. So
I don't understand what the goal needs to change the way it's read. That's all.
so it's not a
just-
goal, it's, well.
I mean, it's
It's it's a piece of evidence to.
piece of evidence.
evidence, yeah.
Yeah, to support a goal.
So it should say any and all communication.
Okay.
School
that sounds
committee
good.
members review needs,
take
that's
that
out.
out.
It
Yeah,
should
that
just
makes
be
sense.
any and all communication, written and oral, by the superintendent. Right, that's what it means. I think that's a better
That's
way to
good,
word it,
yeah.
because I'm like, why am I being told I have to review all written and oral? Like, I don't
You
understand.
get all that free time.
So we're gonna delete school committee members' review of. So the
Just
first,
say any and.
all right, 5 words are gone, and we're adding any and, A-N-Y, space, A-N-D, space,
That
all.
makes it,
Okay.
now I understand what you meant.
All right. Anything else on this one?
That's it.
All right, so I think we're ready to vote on, did you want to vote? We can vote things separately if people want to. Did you want to do that so you can articulate your view on the practice goal, or you want to do them all at once? What do you want to do?
Okay.
You care? Okay, so I just want to make sure you get a fair hearing on. Okay, so we're going to vote on the superintendent's goals now with all of the additional wording that was added this evening.
Okay.
Motion?
Well,
So move.
Cindy, what do you want?
the third goal is not written down, and we don't have it, so I still have a
Yes, it is.
problem.
Yes, it is. It is. It's goal 3.
Yes.
In
Where?
it's the district goals, goal 3. It's basically district goal 3.
But there's no list of what the evidence, there doesn't have any of the other
It doesn't, right.
pieces that it needs to, like, so, I mean, I can vote on these, but I don't have anything
May I?
formal.
No.
In the original creation of all of this whole system we have, what was done is that they said, besides these goals, the school committee can pick from their district goals
Right,
what particular goals you really want to have evidence of.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we should list it with the evidence that we want to see. I
okay?
don't have that, that's what I'm saying,
We-
is that we just didn't formally, you can say, okay, it's that goal, but the evidence obviously has to be what? That we get some report on everything that was due and whether or not it was done on
So it's
time,
actually,
or,
so under goal 3, so basically we're saying goal 3 is the goal.
yes,
And if you go to goal 3 in the district, district goals,
yes.
there's 3.134, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, evidence of success for each of them. So that's that whole thing.
Complete the schematic. But those are only those specific ones. I thought that the goal was that these are not all of the things that are going on.
No,
These are not all of the
misspoke.
buildings.
So I confused things. I misspoke earlier, so I apologize.
So is it just these ones?
Yes, it's goal 3.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. I misspoke. So I said something like that in the committee.
So
minutes,
it's
but
3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4.
It's goal 3.
It's goal 3.
Yep.
Goal 3 is the district improvement goal. That's it.
Right. With those forms of evidence, et cetera?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
But I
Now
still
got it.
think they should be built on time and under budget.
I think you're right. Okay, sorry,
So-
I misunderstood
Yeah.
that that's what it was,
But
and
I-
that it
that's-
was
yeah.
specific enough here.
Yeah.
The
I did
standard
not
for
see that.
exemplary.
Okay,
That's my standard for exemplary, on time and under budget. Yeah.
got it, okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I just wanted to say, we've been picking this apart, which we should, that's, our job, that's what we should do, but I'm really pleased to see the level of detail in both sets of goals, I think, and I applaud the effort that's gone into that.
It was due to Mr. Schlickham's leadership of the CIA committee.
Oh, yeah.
In spite of
It's
his
gotten a lot better.
In spite of his
Like that.
leadership.
In spite,
Gotten a lot better in recent years. Okay,
all right,
so there needs to be a motion by someone.
will not be me.
I move to approve the, oh goodness,
Superintendent's goals.
the superintendent's goals, and the district goals.
No, we already did the district goals.
We already did,
already
oh, sorry.
approved the district
Okay, I move to approve the superintendent goals as presented and edited.
And edited. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schlickman. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
I'm gonna abstain.
Ms. Starks abstained, so the vote is 6-0-1. All right. Okay, we are a little behind schedule. So thanks very much, everyone. I think it was a good, I think it's important, no, I think it was important discussion to have. We're talking about goals for the year to come. Okay, we now have Dr. Bodie's superintendent report.
Okay, I have a number of things. Always, we talk about building projects. Stratton, the report to Permanent Town Building the other night is that it is on target, meeting all the deadlines, and we are even talking about packing up boxes, where to store the boxes, and so all of that's happening. The only thing that is a little bit of a deviation in the plan is that we're going to have an intermediary place to put the boxes. So, because they can't be moved directly into the classrooms right away.
Can't use the gym?
That's being renovated this summer. But it's being figured out. There's a small glitch in the whole process, but it's all going very well. So that's happening. The Thompson, we're definitely honing in on this Plan B. According to the contract, the substantial completion is supposed to be August 18th. It's looking doubtful as to whether they're going to make that date. There's issues of liquidated damages after that. In fact, the contract has it at $3,000 a day. So there's a lot of pressure right now to move the project forward, but it's sort of coming together in an odd way in that you see drywall going up on the first and third level, but the second level is still sort of open because it's still waiting for some steel that has to be put in. And it's supposed to be coming. It was supposed to be here a week ago, but it's not here. So there's going to be some challenges. So we have to have definitely a Plan B. I think as we get a little bit closer, we'll be able to give much more an idea to both the staff and to parents as to exactly what the plan will be. But we do have a plan in case they're not open for opening.
Question, go ahead, Neil.
Okay. If they have open buildings and they're also putting in drywall, are we doing our own inspections to make sure that we're not having problems with water penetration into the levels which are being finished?
It's being monitored, yeah.
Okay. I mean, but us, not just the contractor.
Oh, yes.
The town
Yes.
the town has a specific
inspection.
person we've hired to be the watchdog. He's the one who caught all the issues that we've already had as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, yes, sir.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
The people that were planning on using the modular units that are in existence, are they being involved in Plan B as well? I assume
The
that.
answer is yes, they are being involved. Well, part of the plan for going into next year was to have Park and Recs, which has been displaced from Gibbs, have their after-school program.
Right.
That's not going to be effective. We're going to figure that out.
Okay.
But they're also going to have a preschool program in the modulars. So when we contracted for the modulars, it made sense to make sure that we'd have those modulars there in case. And it turns out we might have the in case. But in doing that, at the very beginning, you had to contract for the entire year. So what can we use with the modulars once all the construction is done? And that's where some of these other programs have come into play, which helps Parks and Rec and also, defrays a little bit of the cost of it as well. So that's where we are. But yes, we have to make a plan. The preschool one is a little bit more difficult to work out.
Thank you.
Hardy, we had a meeting at the Facilities Committee, and there's a number of things that we need to be looking at and with respect to the effect of the disruption on play areas and what we're going to do next year when some of that back area is going to be cordoned off. I still don't know how much, because we're at the stage right now where we have to get an OPM, an architect for the project, and then the contractor. And I think until all parts of that are in place, it will be hard to know really what the effect will be in that back area, because that'll be part of the design plan. So that's all happening. But the idea is to have that all in place. We really want to get moving on the project as soon as possible, so we don't have, there's more of a cushion in there than there was with the Thompson. Thompson was highly structured in terms of the timeline, and a glitch like the steel that happened throws everything off. But they are working on Saturdays and to hopefully make up some time. So at any rate, more, as I said earlier in the meeting, we are meeting with the director of facilities and Hardy principal and I are going to be looking at what some options might be. So I'll get more reports as we go forward, but I don't think we'll know much more for another month or two. With respect to the Gibbs, that is also moving along quite well. They are going to be moving into construction plans and getting ready for beginning construction really July 1. That's when tenants have to be out at the end of June. Most of the tenants actually have plans to be out even before that, but the contractors are ready to go when they leave. There's been work already on the design. I think we've talked about that here. Actually, it's just moving forward quite well. The high school, we're at the stage where an OPM has been selected. It's going to be Skanska, which is a major international firm. They have two divisions. One is the international piece, and the other is that they do this kind of work of overseeing projects. We had great references for that company. In fact, they were the OPM for the Winchester project and had great references there. So that's good. This has been sent to the MSBA, and I believe the date is July 10th, which is a Monday. They'll have a team will go to MSBA in order to have final approval on the OPM. Once that happens, then the OPM will help us put together the description for the architect and have that probably advertised sometime in July. I can't tell you when. So the hope is that we'll have the architect by maybe the end of September, probably at the earliest. And then during that, we're also going to be getting we're going to do the high school CM at Risk project. So we'll be getting the contractor fairly early in the process as well. Once we have a designer, then we start moving into the whole issue of feedback and focus groups, and that plan will all be out there for everybody. Okay. So I think that covers all five. We have 5 of them going on. All right. So the next thing is you wanted to report tonight on professional developments summary for FY17 and what the summer plan is going forward. And Dr. Chesson has put that information in Novus, and has PowerPoint as well.
Right, so you had, this information you already have, it's just in a different format so that it's easily presentable. So this year at our elementary early release PD days, as you know, we release every Tuesday afternoon. At least one a month is set up for professional development. Kindergarten focused on the new investigations curriculum. As you remember, we're putting in Investigations 2.0 and also work on the tools of the mind. First grade, again, the new math curriculum and an expansion of the Lucy Calkins unit. Second and third grades focused on some pilots that some teachers are doing for the Investigations 2, which will be implemented in the next school year. And grades 4 and 5 focused on Lucy Calkins and the science program and integrating social studies unit on immigration. So there was the beginnings of some integration, which is really important at the elementary level because those teachers have so much to cover in such a short amount of time that we really need to look at integration of units whenever possible. Some of the other PD that happened other days besides on those Tuesdays is that, of course, you know about the literacy labs where we have 6-week units where teachers visiting a demonstration teacher course. We ran a blended learning course called DIY literacy course. It filled up in a half an hour. We took 20 teachers and it was posted that teachers could register. Half an hour later, it was filled. It was like rock concert tickets. Tammy McBride taught that course. We then ran 2 more sections of that because it was so popular. We ran the supporting instructional leaders course, is what we call our teacher leadership course, that focused primarily on elementary school teachers this year. We did a lot of work with looking at student work protocols to improve writing. So Linda Hansen and several of the other folks went around to different schools and taught teachers how to do looking at student work. And we actually used some of those protocols to examine writing conferences. So teachers, Linda did this as to show people as an exemplar, and then teachers in certain buildings, such as Hardy, would videotape themselves conferring with a student on their writing, and then they would present that conference video to their peers, and then they would use a protocol to discuss where the teacher was right on the money and where the teacher might want to make some changes for the next time. We've had some professional development around iReady, which is our universal screener, and grades K through 1. And this was so impressive that principals who have a lot to say about not having enough subs. Originally, I told the math department that they could not do this for grades 2 and 3 next year, and when the principals found out about it, they said, no, we'll figure it out. So what happens is several times during the unit, grades K and 1 are paired, so they have 2 schools that are paired together that are close by, that will have a release in the morning for talking about the implementation of the new math curriculum. And the teachers felt that that was one of the things that really supported them. So before they get into the unit, they meet with their peers and they talk about that unit. So even though they have it on Tuesday afternoons, this is really concentrated time for them to plan that unit. At the middle school level, you heard earlier this year about the Ed Camp that happened there. They've been doing cultural competency work, which you also heard about earlier a couple weeks ago. Formative assessment was the focus in social studies department meetings. Using technology was the focus in the math department meetings. In science, they're looking at what's going to be necessary to implement the next generation science standards. And teaching all students to use evidence in their writing was the focus in the English Language Arts Department in their early release times in their department meetings. In addition, we ran a number of mini courses, which you've heard about before, reading in the content area, supporting the needs of ELL and SPED students, and high expectation teaching. The high school, in their department meetings, did work on best practices in science, fostering discourse in English language arts, again, formative assessment in social studies, developing more effective assessments in math and cultural competency as an entire high school. Again, those teachers also participated in the online mini courses. Administrators, as you've heard about, we've did our work around cultural competency this year. We actually run an online mini course just for administrators called Leading for Differentiation. A number of administrators went to the Universal Design for Learning and Leading course. We had a couple of administrators going to Closing the Achievement Gap with Anthony Mohammed, who we're bringing in the fall. Leading for implementation of the Lucy Calkins Writing and Reading Program, which was targeted for administrators. How do they get teachers to understand how to move kids along in their writing? And calibrating teacher observations and evaluations. District-wide PD did a number, and this list is not exhaustive. There are many other things, but this is one of the things we wanted to highlight. The Massachusetts Computer Users Group, we not only had people that went, we had a number of people that presented. The Title I conference for ELA and math interventions, we send a team every year and did so this year. A Universal Design for Learning in terms of a teacher's perspective, and there was a number of, the work that the Safe and Supportive teams did was also considered professional development. So what's going to happen this summer? It's hard to read. There's a lot of things here. Basically, we are focused on refining the UC Calkins units, and so that you'll see things like the Word Detective unit at grade 1 or book clubs at grade 2, the home unit and opinion units, and which are social studies and ELA integrated elementary units. And we're also looking at a refresher in Foundations, which is the phonics program that's used for students who need an intervention. We will be looking at a number of other comprehension assessments for grades 4 and 5. We have a universal screener, but if a student comes up as being of concern, we want to have a bigger toolkit to talk about what problems they might be having in comprehension. Social studies will be really focusing on civics lesson planning over the summer, and we'll be getting ready for the investigations expansion into grades 2 and 3. They'll be reviewing digital curriculum units for Audison Science. ELL will be working again this summer on model curriculum units. We have responsive classroom for both elementary and middle school. We are running another mathematical course called Developing Mathematical Ideas for Elementary School teachers. And there's just some other things that are happening at the different grade levels. Particularly note text analysis in the ELA for the AP teachers. Plans for 2018 at the elementary level. I just talked about those early release mornings for grades 2 and 3. We're going to be piloting the investigations 2 in grades 4 and 5. Really looking not only at the analysis of the data from the universal screener, but action plans in relationship to that. We'll be refining our FOSS implementation. Those units are extremely dense, and a unit that's supposed to be for 6 weeks could easily stretch out to 8 to 10. So we have a group of people that have been selected as teacher leaders that will be going through and really identifying those activities in the FOSS kits that have to be done in order for the standards to be met, and sort of saying, these are nice to haves if you can fit them in the 6-week window that's supposed to happen. Those teachers will be working with teachers in grades K through 5. Tools in the Mind coaching will continue. We'll be expanding our reading units, and we'll be continuing our lab classrooms in ELA, expanding into lab classrooms in math. And again, I talked about the lead teachers in FOSS. Oops. Where's the other slide? Oh, did I hit the wrong thing? I did. It plans for Audison and the high school for the next year. Responsive classroom for Audison will have 2 additional days that happen after the summer. We'll continue to do the use of evidence at ELA. The planning for Gibbs will be happening, and there'll be professional development that will have to happen in order for that planning to continue. Program design for MSBA at the high school. Continuing with discourse in ELA and formative assessment with social studies. All right. Oh, plan for district-wide PD. Cultural competency work, which will kick off on that full-day professional development day with Dr. Anthony Mohammed. Then the PD that's recommended by the Safe and Supportive School Committees will also be scheduled in for next year. There's some placeholder days in there. Or early release days in there, and then PD at individual schools based on school improvement plans. This is something we have not captured in the past. I've created a Google Doc, and principals and literacy coaches, math coaches that work with schools on those Tuesday afternoons on the other than the days that are, everybody in 4th grade is doing this. But at Hardy, they've done a number of things. At Bishop, they've done a number of things that are PD that's targeted just because of their school improvement plan, and we haven't been capturing that. So I've developed a Google Doc so that when that happens at that school, those principals can enter that information in, so that we can really capture the full range of PD that's happening, and supporting Instruction Leadership Academy. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Questions? Dr. Seuss?
A couple questions. Actually, one is a request. I'd love to see what responsive classroom looks like at the middle school level, because I have an idea of what it looks like at the elementary school level. So it'd be great to some point get a presentation
Absolutely.
on sort of what it looks like at the middle school level. Next generation science standards, what is the date for that? Do we know what the state is decided?
They're in the process of completing the review by the state. It's out for public comment.
Right.
And so I believe that it's going to be wrapping up quite shortly, and then we'll start, we have already know what they are, and we've been implementing them. It's not going to be like, whoa, we're caught off guard.
Next year, is that sort of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I just have a question about what Investigations 2 is.
Well, Investigations is our math curriculum,
Okay.
and it was updated to more align with the Common Core several years ago. And so we roll it out. It's just easier. It's easier for them to support, and it's easier for the district to afford it, to be honest with you.
Okay. And then one more question, universal screener. I think I've
Universal
heard that
screen-
before, but I don't have
Sure.
access to
Every
it.
student at 4th and 5th grade will take an online adaptive test for two 45-minute sessions. So 2 45-minute sessions for math, 2 45-minute sessions for ELA.
Mm-hmm.
And it will identify those students that might be at the benchmark, ahead of the benchmark, or below the benchmark. It's the first thing that we've ever found that's adaptive. So if you get the first couple of questions right, it will make the questions harder. If you get the first couple of questions wrong, it's going to make the questions easier. Because it's online and it's adaptive, it's very, very quick. So every student can do it. Students were asking their teachers when they could do it again. That's how much they liked it.
Okay.
Strange, but true.
So it's going to give us information that MCAS just can't give
Well,
us. It's
what
not-
it does do is it gives us an indication of how students, remember, we're going to do it in September. The
Right.
MCAS data, the full MCAS data doesn't come
Right.
back sometimes till late September, early October. And so it gives us an indication of how students will do. It'll allow us to group students for intervention earlier rather than later. And during the year, those students that are below benchmark, they will give it to them, particularly in math, they will give it to them more frequently so that they can track their progress towards benchmark.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
I was also curious about the universal screener. So how much beyond benchmark does it test?
We actually had kids in either the 4th or 5th grade that were showing up as being at 8th and 9th grade.
Okay,
level.
so it goes
It
significantly
goes up that
beyond.
much,
Okay.
yeah. That was a literacy one that I looked at.
Right, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Mr. Gardner has hand up, then I'll go on. But yeah,
Sorry.
Mr. Gardner, yeah, go ahead.
What are the lab classrooms for ELA and math?
So a teacher will, in the literacy, the way it works is a teacher will say that for 6 weeks, they will become the demonstration teacher. So a small number of teachers, somewhere between 4 and 6, will get permission from their principal to participate. They will go and visit that classroom at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. That teacher will teach about 15 or 20 minutes. Then the class gets divided into groups. Those teachers then jump in at each station and then work with those kids. It's not only beneficial for the teachers that are part of it and the teacher that's teaching it, but it's also beneficial for the students. And they really look forward to those extra teachers coming in the room one day a week. We also use a swivel, which is a round device about this big that an iPad goes in, and the teacher wears something around his or her neck that it follows them and their voice wherever they go about in the room, and we videotape it, and then those videotapings are shared with all the teachers in the district, even those that are not part. Math is going to do something similar. This will be the first year, so we're not exactly sure how that's going to work, but it's going to be a similar product.
Exciting.
Mr. Hander.
Just want to be clear, when you say 4th grader at an 8th grade level, it's where an 8th grader would be expected to deal with the 4th grade test, am I correct? Not a 4th grader achieving an 8th grade proficiency.
No, if I ask you a question, it's an 8th grade standard. So the student is showing proficiency at that specific 8th grade standard, not all of 8th grade, that specific 8th grade
So
standard.
as the test gets progressively harder, the quality of the question gets up there.
The question gets more
I just want to
difficult. Yes,
clarify,
that's
because
correct.
a lot of tests, when they say 8th grade level, it's where an 8th grader would score at that type of a test. So it's actually 8th grade materials that
It's
they're
8th
scoring.
grade
Thank you.
material, yes.
I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
at this time, I'm going to pull out, this is Dr. Chesson's final presentation to the Arlington School Committee. And I'm going to let Kathy do the speaking. But this is, there's a vase then.
Yeah.
You mean I don't get to keep that plastic
Yeah,
container?
Thought you might want to take it home.
yeah, we are
Maybe
very
we should keep it in the
grateful.
plastic for now. No,
Yeah.
it's
I'm gonna-
easier to take home.
I'm going to just let Kathy do this, because I don't know. But we are very, very grateful for your service to the Arlington Public Schools. You have given us a great deal over the past 5 years. I think the district's made great strides in technology and in so many other ways. And your new district is, Groton Dunstable is lucky to have you.
Thank you very much.
And we were all happy to say great things about you when we were called
Oh, yeah.
by the members of the school. We really were.
So you have no one to blame but yourself.
Yeah, yeah, we
So,
have to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah. So Kathy, why don't you were going to say
Well,
more.
Yes, I want to say thank you to Dr. Chesson for 5 years. It's been a wonderful partnership. I will miss her very much, as she knows, but I could not be happier for her that she has this new position, which she's quite ready to assume. The contributions she has made to her district have been significant and profound. Where we were in technology and using technology in the district is vastly different than it was 5 years ago. And as you can see from the report today, the plan is very comprehensive, very detailed, and that's always been updated every year. And it's through this vision and tenacity to the detail and the rationale that actually was very persuasive to the Capital Planning Committee that has given us this incredible contribution every year to make a difference. And honestly, without that contribution, and AEF, I might add, we would not be at the place we are. But so you have to be able to have the technology in order for people to use it. And there's always that time period where there's a lag in one or the others, and that's going to happen, and it's going to be at different levels. But I think that'll be a lasting legacy to this district for sure, and we hope to keep it up. So when you're asking me how's it going, I can say it's going great. But there's also others. I think that the collaboration around more embedded PD that's very significant has increased under your leadership in this area, and the lab program is a good example of that. You were asking about it. We have a math mentor program, a reading mentor program, which is modeled that way, but it's for pre-professional teachers. What we needed was really for something, especially with all of the curriculum changes we've had, we needed something for our veteran teachers. It also is consistent with the work that's gone on in collaboration with a number of people, including Linda Hansen, who was former president of the AEA, about increasing teacher leadership. As a district, we've been very committed to that and want to find significant ways teachers can move beyond in their leadership of the classroom. And I think that, for example, the lab program is a good example of that. And there are many other examples. The amount of presentations teachers are doing for other teachers is growing, both in summertime, on early release days, on professional days. So that has been a major contribution as well. But also the work on curriculum, we've talked about what was happening with science, being ahead and working with our curriculum leaders to introduce new curriculum that's much more consistent with for example, the new generation science standards. Being able to move us forward in getting updating our math curriculum. For many years, we had the old version of investigations, and we've just had to keep updating ourselves with binders and binders, and it was time to change, and that's helped as well. The Lucy Calkins, that's been a very significant change in how we do reading and writing at the elementary. So you saw the wide range of professional development, and these are there's lots of other smaller things that we could all talk about in which you have been a major contributor. And so I just want to say we wish you well.
Thank you.
And we'll miss you very much.
I'll miss all of you. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's nice.
Jeff,
Thank you very
Bill,
much.
yeah, go ahead.
last week I had the privilege of meeting, I taught in Groton Dunstable for 28 years, and a group of teachers were asking me what she liked. And I said, the best thing I can say is that I envy you, what you're going to have with this new superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Hayner. Thanks.
All right.
And I just add what, so I echo, everything that's been said so far. I have to say another advantage of having you is I think that the fact that so many teachers really like being here and want to be here is partly a result of your leadership on curriculum issues, on professional development, on the teacher evaluation that was rolled out during your tenure, and I think that's it. Kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't take any of those teachers with you to Groton.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Or curriculum heads.
Doesn't work that way.
Curriculum leaders,
Non-solicitation
nothing.
agreement. Yes.
Doesn't work
We have
that way.
that?
Don't worry too, it's a long way away.
I was going to say, nobody's going to drive west of 95, so.
Good.
Here, see, you want-
I just want to thank you for all the time that you've taken to talk to me, and I think many of our other members, and to find out information for us. You know, if we have a question, it gets answered often the same day, if not the same week. So thank you. We'll really miss you.
Thank you.
You've set the bar higher for your
Yeah,
successor.
sure.
So,
It's true.
all right.
All right, there's a few more things.
I know.
I'll try to make
so.
them
Yeah,
fast.
I thought there were, yeah, please.
Actually, Mr. Spiegel might want to talk about our new Director of Performing Arts. We put a press release out on that.
Yeah, there was a press release that went out today or yesterday. William Papazisis is going to join us as a .6 Director of Performing Arts for the district, K-12. And he comes with a lot of experience as the press release said, as a performing arts director in Belmont, and is strong recommendations, and I think will bring much needed leadership to the performing arts department that hasn't had it for a couple of years. So, it's had it through principals, but not with someone who is really focused on performing arts and has that background.
I meant to ask him if he wanted to come last night, the Addison.
I did ask
haircut.
him.
Yeah,
He was not available.
He was not available. I thought of that last night, I was listening, that it was just an amazing concert. I think the community has a lot to be proud of. That was, it was
Great show.
terrific.
Yeah. I had a child in the show. It was great, so I was biased. It was great.
They were great.
Yeah.
Also, I'm thinking of thank yous, graduation this last weekend. I want to thank Mr. Thielman for being there, and great speech, and passing out diplomas. We changed things around, and I've heard nothing but positive comments about how much better the speakers were, and I meant everybody, but I meant the actual sound. We've had troubles over the years with sound, and it was much better and very, very well done.
Matt Janger rapped. It was really cool.
He did.
It was intimidating to follow that, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was really good. He was really
He
good.
was. He
yeah.
sort of stole the show with his rap.
And then he had the hook, and then the kids got involved, and
What is he going to do next year?
I don't know.
He has to
It's a tough
surpass
act to
it.
follow, but he was good.
Yeah. The vision, I mentioned earlier, Vision 2020 is having this Gibbs, when I was looking this up, because there was a change of place. It's now going to be here in the school committee room this coming Tuesday, the 13th, from 7 to 8:30. I'll put a reminder out to people later this week or early on Monday. But the event will be an update and discussion on, let me just read these so everybody knows, the Gibbs redesign and plans for renovation, the draft vision and mission statement of the Gibbs School, how our educators want Gibbs to look, feel, and sound, curriculum experience we want our children, students at the Gibbs School. We're going to be looking for feedback from parents on the vision and mission statement, and just general feedback that we can take back to the planning committee. Hoping to have a meeting with the Gibbs Advisory before the 26th, because the first full day of planning for the committee is going to be on Monday, the 26th, which means that, knock on wood, the last day of school will be Friday, the 23rd, which we'll be getting out, reminding parents to that. I'm sure your children are reminding you all the time about that. We talked about the Hardy Playground. There was an issue that you wanted me to speak to this evening about kindergarten lunches.
Yeah, a parent talked about how early the kindergarten lunch is. Several of us got it, and they have lunch at 10, I think 10:25 in the morning, and by the end of the day, it's the scheduling issue.
None of our lunches are quite that early. The kindergarten lunch at Hardy is at 10:50, and I don't think any of ours, maybe 10:45.
It's still a long time before
Well, if they're
the
in
next
school
meal.
3 hours almost at that point. Honestly, the reason the kindergarten first, they seem to be the kids that are the hungriest. I would also say that in general, if a teacher could eat lunch, they would eat it at 11 o'clock. Am I correct on that? Yes. Teachers would love to be having lunch at 10:50. Most of our students in the elementary have to have a snack by 10:30 or they're going to be famished.
I just
But what
passed it on to
happens,
you.
yeah, no, but what happens is there is a snack in the afternoon. We're very aware of this issue, and the larger the schools becomes an issue in how you schedule lunch and recess at the elementary. And in order to have adequate time for lunch, and we moved lunch times to 40 minutes this year, or actually it was last year, that's what it needs to be. The last thing is the assistant superintendent search. We have moved forward. We have finalists. There's been a lot of reference checking. It is the hope to have a candidate be with you for an interview on the next meeting, which is the 19th. I think tonight in executive session, we're going to talk about range for contracts that would be necessary to have a conversation about over the next week. So we're planning that this evening. And that is my report. Pardon? Oh, thank you, Karen. The school calendar, here it is. I didn't see it. There was a slight error on the school calendar that we need to correct. It's on your place there. It's in November. In the previous calendar, Friday the 3rd was marked as early release middle school for conferences. So the 3rd was marked on the calendar, but in the listing in the center, it was the 9th. The 9th was the correct date. So we just changed that. And, I'm not sure who picked it up, but we picked it up after
Claudia.
the last meeting. Pardon?
Claudia.
Oh, of course, Claudia did. She's our webmaster. So she picked that up, and so it's just a correction. I don't know if we probably need you can just, I think probably a quick vote on this amendment, or it's just a typo?
administrative
Okay,
change.
yeah,
That's
it's
not-
administrative change, okay.
All right,
And that was it.
all right, thank you very much. Yeah.
Will you be able to update people on the Audison principle soon?
At the 19th meeting, I will be able to.
All right, folks, we're almost an hour behind, so we've got to sort of catch up if we want to get through the, here. Okay, consent agenda, all items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence. Approval of warrant number 17191, total warrant amount $344,586.06, dated 5/25/17. Approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes of May 25th, 2017. Approval of the second reading, file ADC, smoking on school premises replaced with tobacco use and vaping on school premises. Yes?
Can we pull that?
Yes, you'd like to pull that. Okay, we're going to pull the policy. Yes, Mr. Schlickman?
I'm happy to approve the minutes. There are a couple typos I just want to point out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, under school choice, it would be notify instead of notified. It's just tense. But on at the top of page 3, for the consent agenda, it would be Dr. Allison Ampe who moved that.
It's a great memory.
Well,
Oh, It says Mr. Casey.
Oh. Oh. Even better,
You
okay.
got me to say it, not
Okay,
him.
so all those, so we're gonna just do the first 2 minutes in warrant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, you pulled the second reading.
Yeah, okay. So in the policy, I'm sorry, I'm on policy, I should have picked this up before, but first, I'm questioning whether it needs 2 and/ors in the first sentence. The second one before tobacco products. And then the second thing is, in the second paragraph, the second sentence reads, and shall, blah, 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 and shall receive education on the hazards of smoking. But we're now adapting it to vaping, so I think we want to
Right.
change that to hazards of substance use or something.
Or something.
But it needs to be more inclusive, or we need to get rid of that.
Okay, do we wanna, so we have 2 options. We can just edit this now.
Accept it as a friend.
Yeah, I think it's pretty, I don't, not
Okay.
policy.
Okay, so why don't we,
And then the last thing is, do we actually have signs posted in all the buildings of the district policy? I'm thinking about the vaping part now and requirements of state law.
Well, our policy, if we adopt the policy, we'd be instructing the administration to do this.
Okay,
so why don't we do this? So if you can just send Karen the
Okay.
changes, since you
okay.
noted, I think.
Do you like hazards of substance use?
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Move to approve as edited.
Second.
Second, motion by Mr. Hayner, second by Mr. Schlickman. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Okay. Now we move to subcommittee reports. There's no policy, Mr. Carden, right?
Correct. Oh, and
Addition.
we're hoping to schedule a meeting, but nothing to report.
Okay.
Okay.
So budget, any report?
Nothing to report.
Community relations.
All right, well, we had a meeting. I want to first say thank you to everybody who did school committee chat for the year, and to please ask if anybody has any notes, if they could get them to me. I want to just put together kind of a end-of-year summary, and just make sure, I mean, I think that we all agreed that it was well-received and that we should redo it again, but it's just good to have some kind of, it doesn't have to be intricate, just stuff you talked about. Yeah.
If we do it again,
Yeah.
can we ask that whoever sets it up asks the restaurants that it's okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we should move it then if they're pushing back.
Well, if they,
I think that that's not a bad idea.
I mean, you know, we got Cafe Nero now, we got other.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. I want
Yeah,
them to
yeah.
ask, not
Yeah,
just show.
Yeah, so, whatever, all right. And then, at our meeting on Monday, we discussed, we saw a demo of some new dashboard software. I sent everybody a link, to the way Amesbury had, implemented that. So a couple of things about that. One, out of that meeting, Community Relations unanimously voted to recommend to the school committee that we purchase ClearGov. It's $7,500 a year, which is, less money than we could do it for ourselves. And the nice thing is that if we are willing to sign by June 15th, they are willing to forego the onboarding fee, which is $1,200. And they are more than happy to write it so that we sign it on the 15th and we don't pay until July when our new fiscal year comes around. So we need a vote out of
So
here.
motion by Ms. Starks to purchase, to go with Claire Gov's dashboard, second by
for the purpose of discussion, I will.
Mr. Hayner. Okay, now, discussion.
And one of the things that I just wanted to point out, that was pointed out in the demo that we saw, is that what you saw on Amesbury's website is kind of the public view, and there's also some really amazing stuff that happens on the other end that we would be able to use and see. And literally, you can go in and have all the queries against all of the DESI data, all of it, literally within seconds. You can say, I want to see, this, 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 and this, you can filter it. It was pretty cool. She, on the fly, set it up so that we could see everything compared to the Town Manager 12. And they do all of that kind of stuff, so I just wanted to point that out.
I just want to say, I took, up at the link, I took the Amesbury out and got the master site, and all the towns and community, you can see all the communities in the country, Massachusetts, it was fascinating, and there was different variations, really nice. Quick question, do they do all the updating as our documents change, or do they train someone here for us to do the updating?
All
That
the,
fee-
there's no documents to update. It's all based on DESI data, so as the DESI data changes underneath.
Okay, so we're not putting our budget and things of that nature on it as well? I saw that on a couple of other sites.
The budgeting
And-
information they get is all from DESI.
Or
Okay.
no, we have, no.
We
there
can
was-
put our, we will continue to put our.
There was information that we could
We can
provide them.
put,
Yeah,
there
was-
is,
there was
yes, there are
information
ways
provide
that
them.
we can put up,
So
but
we
they
will-
don't do it, we do
Okay,
it.
we would have access
Yes.
to it,
We-
to add any additional things,
Yes.
fine.
We'll
that-
continue to
because-
post our budget on the website that, that.
No, I'm just,
Yeah.
I saw, if you go into some of the others, some of the towns had some very extensive stuff and
Yeah.
included that, that's why I
Yeah,
was asking.
Exactly.
So we have that option as well?
Yes. Yes.
That's part of the licensing, great.
Any more discussion on the motion?
Just, what's the sort, I mean, you say it's from DESI, but how are they getting it and what are they doing to it in the meantime?
They just put it, they make it so that it's easily understood by,
Where, how are they getting all the
You
data?
take a download,
they just download it.
Okay,
It's
so
public
data.
download. You hit a button, download button, it's the Excel file comes down, throw it in the database, up it goes, pretty easy.
Right.
Once you set it
So
up.
it's all based, it all sits on top of data that's already public. Although, like we said, there are ways to plug in your own and make that data information
Thank you for the work.
available too. Yeah, it's a lot of work. There's just no way we could get anything close for that kind of money.
Yeah. And the thing is, it takes away time from the district staff.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and it would almost immediately make our dashboard that much better.
Classic.
Just by, even if we just took the boilerplate stuff for now, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, great. So
So
did
we
we
need-
vote?
So no, we
Take
didn't
a vote. So any more discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It
Awesome.
carries.
All right. The other thing is that we unanimously recommended Naomi Greenfield as our human rights appointment. I believe she's coming next.
She said she's.
She's on the agenda for the 19th, Karen,
19th,
so
yes.
Naomi Greenfield,
Yes.
Human Rights Commission.
So we will get to meet her. And also, we were informed that another one of our human rights appointments is retiring, I guess, from that position. So we need to put out the call for another human rights appointee.
Okay.
If we could, I don't know, Karen, I'm sure you know what that means.
We need to publicize it, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
Putting the advocate
Yeah.
on the whole.
And we're working on having one more community relations meeting before the summer. I'm still trying to schedule that, so optimistically, it might happen before the 19th, and then I can tell you what happened.
District accountability curriculum instruction.
We rehashed the old hash, which we rehashed tonight, and we finally got it all done, so we can celebrate.
Good. Good job, Paul. Facilities, Dr. Seuss.
We had a meeting on the 31st. We discussed two issues. We had a group of Hardy parents who were concerned, as the early part of the meeting, we had the similar concerns about the playground and what happens during the construction. And, we don't have a plan yet, but I think that dialogue was really, really constructive. We also had a parent who had a scare. She was told that her kid who she had put on the bus hadn't arrived at school, and continued to have a scare. And there were sort of multiple technological glitches and as well as human glitches. And superintendent agreed to sort of give us a report at the next meeting about changes that will be made to prevent something like that from happening in the future.
Thank you very much. School Enrollment Task Force, there's really nothing to report. Legal Services Review.
Nothing at this time.
High School Building Committee, we met Tuesday night, and as Dr. Bodie explained, we approved the OPM. We received a report from the Communications Committee, subcommittee, which Kirsty's on, and they've done a great job of creating an FAQ that will be posted.
I think we're waiting on a few more edits, but it'll
Yeah.
come onto the school site.
Yeah, And so we're moving along. Our next meeting is Tuesday, July 11th at 6 PM. What else am I missing anything?
No, we have a website that'll be coming, we hope by September.
Yeah, and so by September, and there's a lot going on. So it's an exciting project and a big one. Let's see, next, Gibbs Committee. Ms. Starks, any report?
No, we haven't met.
Okay, Warrant Committee.
Paid, everyone get paid.
Liaison reports. Anyone want to make a liaison report? Any announcements?
Yeah.
Yes, Bill.
I want to commend the students and staff at the Audison for the Memorial Day program they did on May 26. There were veterans representing World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and all the subsequent conflicts. The program was outstanding and inspiring.
Thank you very much.
And one more thing, I don't know if the rest of you, I got an announcement about the MAC convention.
Yeah, right.
We save $100 if we enroll. I've told Karen, I'm just sharing it with everyone else. I know it's difficult to make a commitment for November at this time, but it saves a couple of bucks if we do it now.
Very good. Thank you very much. Future agenda items. We have the appointment of the Human Rights Commissioner next week. We'll have the superintendent's report. We'll have the assistant superintendent interview and vote, we hope. We will, we hope, we hope. And that's it, I think, and then,
And a quick, yeah,
and then the quick meeting. So the idea is,
update from superintendent on the changes in the policies. Or changes in the technology to prevent things from happening. in the past.
okay, yeah, right, okay, yes, right, and that'll be the superintendent's report, yeah, thanks. And so that, we meet at 5:30 on the 19th. And we end at 6:30, and then will be details that Karen will give about the festivities. Okay, right? That's what you said, all right. Okay, so we now are going to move into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union and/or non-union personnel or contract negotiations with union and/or non-union personnel in which, if held in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect. To conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in which, if held in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect. Collective bargaining may also be conducted. Approval of memorandum of agreement between the Arlington School Committee and the Arlington Education Association, Unit A, dated May 18, 2017, regarding Arlington Effective Educator Development Systems. Motion by...
Can we turn to open?
Are we returning
Are
open
we
session?
returning?
No.
Do we need to vote?
I think we do it, I think we do.
We
for
can do
this.
it on the 19th, can't we? Or do you need it
You
tonight?
can, I mean, that's fine.
Is there a deadline?
Before the next school year, I mean, that would be, so we have it.
Okay, so Karen, let's just make, so we're not gonna, so the television can go home. We'll just make a note, Karen, that last bullet will be on the agenda on the 19th, if there's favorable action. Okay, so motion by Mr. Schlickman, second by Mr. Hayner. Mr. Cardin?
Yes.
Dr. Seuss?
Yes.
Ms. Starks?
Yes.
Mr. Schlickman?
Yes.
Mr. Hayner?
Yes.
Dr. Allison Ampe? Mr. Thielman votes yes. It's unanimous. We are now entering executive session.